KIDO. Don't make sure you take a look at our website. Lots of great, wonderful stories, including the 10 most dangerous places to live in Idaho. Speaking of danger, joining us now is Jonathan Savage, live from London, courtesy of Fox News Radio on 580 KIDO. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Good to have you with us. Now, do you like the English?
I'm very, very fond of my English friends.
I was reading one of those videos on the feed, and apparently, I didn't know this, that they conquered 40% of the world in their day. Can you believe that?
40% of the world. I mean, it was probably easier back then. But, they did some good and they did some bad in doing so, didn't they? Wasn't necessarily the most glorious time. I think a few Scots were involved in this conquering too. We did some conquering of our own. We also tried to set up a colony in Panama, but that went really badly wrong and pretty much everybody died.
Well, aren't you just the picture of joy and happiness this morning?
You know what? It's a lovely, glorious day once again. Approaching 100 degrees Celsius. I had a nice coffee. I've had a Scottish soft drink called Iron Brew. But we're just a little bit concerned about the lack of water because there's a major drought here at the moment. So I'm hoping for some rain. I'm not really able to enjoy the sunshine as much as I should because I'm worried about the lack of rain. That's a very British worry, isn't it?
Well, thank you very much for letting us know your personal situation here as a way of diffusing a rather negative intro from you, talking about killing a bunch of people in Panama and they all died.
Well, it was actually a lot of the people who were part of trying to set up the colony all died because they went from Scotland and they encountered all these tropical diseases in the years before antibiotics or vaccines or anything like that. And that's why it didn't go particularly well for them.
Well, I'm glad we could start our day with the history of a failed Panamanian colony from Scotland, from the Scottish.
Well, look, we cover everything on this segment, and we don't shy away from the big questions.
Well, I don't know how we're going to go from that to Syria, but apparently we are.
Yeah, we are. We're going to go to Syria, but the one man who's not probably is the former president, Bashar al-Assad. He is living lots of luxury in Moscow, Russia, protected by Russia after he was deposed in December 2024. He flew out on private jets with a couple dozen of his closest allies, and he's not been seen since. However, yesterday, that didn't stop a court in Damascus convicting him of crimes against humanity and sentencing him to death. Bashar al-Assad, former president of Syria, given a death sentence for premeditated and intentional murder, including the murder of children, for torture, for ordering arbitrary arrest and detention of many people, for crimes against humanity. So he's convicted. His younger brother also sentenced to death in absentia, 6 further former regime officials with the same sentence. There was one defendant actually in the courtroom, and he was sentenced to death, Atif Najib, who was a former political security chief who clearly didn't manage to get out to Moscow, and his fate was decided yesterday.
Yeah, you don't want to miss that last train to Moscow.
No, not the last train or the last private jet before the rebels arrive at the gates of Damascus. And for the rebels who now run the country with the new president, Ahmed al-Shara, this is quite a big test for him because he promised some form of justice for the crimes of the regime who, during a 14-year civil war, foresaw the deaths of some 500,000 people, masses of people detained, disappeared, tortured. Those days are over. But still in the early days of the new regime in Syria, President al-Shara does seem to have the confidence of President Trump, though, who's ordered the easing of some sanctions on the country to help them recover.
Jonathan Savage joining us from London on Fox News Radio at 580 KIDO. Anything else that you'd like to share? How about Zelensky? What's he up to? I always like asking you the Zelensky update.
Yeah, Zelensky update. He is he's talking about North Korea because he says that North Korea is giving even more help to Russia for their invasion and attack on his country. He says that North Korean missiles, ballistic missiles, were used in a deadly attack on the city of Zaporizhia. And he says that thousands more North Korean soldiers are being prepared to head to the front line. So this relationship between North Korea and Russia appears to continue apace. For their part, the Ukrainians are trying their best to fight back. They've carried out a major attack on a Russian fleet in the Black Sea. What President Zelensky said was that they blitzed Russia's Black Sea naval stronghold in a unique nighttime operation using cutting-edge drones. So this war is continuing to be fierce, and there's very little progress finding a settlement to it.
Well, Jonathan Savage, we appreciate that. Anything else you'd like to share with us today? Perhaps what you're going to have for lunch?
I think for lunch I've got some leftover stir fry from last night, some noodles and a sort of hoisin sauce. So I think that's going to be my lunch for today. And then that's probably not going to be enough, so I'll need to nip down to the shop and pick up a snack after that.
Wow, the more we have you on, the more you remind me of John Mounts, and I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
And neither do I. I think that it has to be mused over. I'll message you and see whether he thinks it's a compliment. He probably does, to be fair. You would, wouldn't you?
Wow. Well, I can neither confirm nor deny, Jonathan Savage. You've won the segment today.
Well, it doesn't always happen, so I'll take my wins where I can find them. I'll cut my losses. And I'll try and live to fight another day. You know me. I tend not to work Fridays. This week I'm not even working Thursdays, so you've got 4 or 5 days to recover and lick your wounds and regroup for another assault on Monday morning.
And he runs it in again. He's running up the score now, everyone. He's running up the score. Well, you have a nice weekend. I'm off to Scotland. Just because I need some rain, to be honest. I missed the rain, so I'm off to Scotland for the weekend. Yeah, I love the rain. It never rains here, so thank you again for that. I appreciate that. Enjoy the rain, sir.
I will. Have a good one.
You too. Our great friend Jonathan Savage. This portion of the program brought to you by Window World Boise. Give them a call today, 614-3188. That's 614-3188. We're talking about windows, patio doors, sidings, all products. A limited time only, 0% interest for 18 months. Boise's exterior remodeler. Now, what makes Window World so special? Well, I have Window World windows in my home, and they're locally owned, veteran-owned. They do a great job. You talk to people, not algorithms. You talk to people, not algorithms. So Window World Boise, please check them out today. Now is the time to get those windows done as we get ready to say goodbye to this, humidless summer, and of course get ready for winter and hope, and we pray that it is a big winter. Of course, when we're all freezing and trying to get into work, we'll go, hey, Kevin Miller, enough of you, but water. Window World Boise, windowworldboise.com. Their number, 614-3188. That's 614-3188. Well, nationally, it doesn't look good for Hong. She lost a close election in Wisconsin. We have more of the Air Force One story. It's going on and on and on. Also, this is something that we didn't know about, but maybe you did, that Medicaid actually was funding child sex change procedures. The Trump administration says not anymore. The Trump administration announced that Medicaid and the state's children's health insurance program will no longer cover gender-affirming surgeries and hormone treatments for transgendered minors. The policy is set to take effect on October 13th, but it is unclear how much taxpayer funding currently covers these treatments. Advocates for the LGBTQ youth criticize the decision, while the administration argues that such treatment are harmful to children. Legal challenges are expected as the administration continues to implement policies restricting gender-affirming care for transgendered individuals, transgendered children. That is a story that you would not get if the Biden administration was in office. Even if you don't really agree with the president, the amount of waste, fraud, and abuse that has been uncovered and continues to be uncovered is truly, truly shocking in a bad way. Speaking of shocking, we have some tickets to give away to the Albertsons Open. What we're going to do is, you know the rule, and if you don't know the rule, we could do it one of two ways. We could do caller number 10, but I like writing for the brand, wearing the colors, if you will. And that's talking about how proud we are to be associated with 580 KIDO. That's 580 KIDO. So if you'd like to see the Counting Crows and take a friend with you this week at the Albertsons Open, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to step into the ring, and you're going to have to go 580 KIDO. You're going to have to tell us how many times you're going to say it in 10 seconds. And if you complete that mission, you're going to go to the Counting Crows, courtesy of the Albertsons Open. We do appreciate all the wonderful work, whether it's West Valley Humane Society, the Idaho Humane Society, the Boise Rescue Mission, so many other great nonprofits that benefit from this charitable event. Great to hear what Dave Petzo has to say as we move along. Other news of the day, just kind of hodgepodging here for a minute before we get rolling. You're going to love this one. Another reason not to mess with ICE. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement plans to spend $20 million on electric shock gloves to aid officers in gaining compliance from individuals who resist arrest or detention. The gloves, known as Glove, deliver an electrical pain stimulus upon direct contact with the skin and are intended to extract and de-escalate situations within seconds. Can you imagine when someone's going, hey, man, da, 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 and then all of a sudden they get the zap? Anyway, some people aren't happy about this. Civil rights advocates have criticized the proposed purchase, expressing concerns about the potential for misuse in specific situations involving physical resistant individuals, and the officers must undergo training before using the devices. I don't know about that. I will tell you that nobody wants to get the shock, right? Nobody wants to get the zzz. So maybe this is a good thing. Maybe there is some good things. Nationally, progressives across the country are somewhat happy that Francisco Hong lost in Wednesday. It was one of the closest elections ever. See, she has actually conceded defeat after she kicked out Fox News from her victory party. That's right. Apparently, the movement had been riding high off a string of primary victories this cycle, but Francisco Hong's loss led to an immediate round of finger pointing. However, here's the other thing that you have to worry about, that this is just the first probe. This is just the first shot, if you will. It's not like, and again, whether you like the reference or not, it all goes back to the wars. It all goes back to the Jedi. It all goes back to the real Star Wars, when Luke was a guy and not turned into a girl, like at the end. And the voice of the Force was a guy. It's just a simple matter of fact, that was the biggest, bestest movie ever. And when they blew up the Death Star, and one of the things that made Lucas so great, so irresistible, so a master of a storyteller, at least for the first one, was the fact that they blew up the Death Star. And then we had this movie called The Empire Strikes Back. The libs will be back for Wisconsin and eventually for Boise or the state of Idaho or both. Well, you could argue that they already control Boise, but we're talking about the liberal loons just being even more liberal and even more loony. So Hong loses. We'll give you the complete election results as we move along, but she came very close. And if you think about it, she probably didn't spend as much money as the guy endorsed by the governor. the other lib. So now we're going to have a matchup between the libs and the Republicans instead of the really, really lib and the Republicans. So people within the Democratic Party are going to go, well, it's not too bad, right? Coming up, we'll have the latest on the Charlie Kirk murder investigation, the trial, and all the turmoil there. But first, let's take a look at all the primary scores from across the country.
County Executive David Crowley beat Francesca Hong by less than a percentage point. Establishment Democrats are certainly celebrating this win. They were afraid that a Hong victory would essentially hand the GOP the keys to the governor's mansion in November. Hong had faced scrutiny over previous social media posts and lacked the endorsements of prominent progressives like Senator Bernie Sanders and AOC. But the far left did get a boost in Minnesota, where progressive candidate Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan beat moderate Congresswoman Angie Craig to win the Democratic nomination for Senate.
Yeah, the problem here was Hong came out against Thanksgiving.
No matter who wins this primary, we're going to continue to fight for each other. We are going to collectively reject despair, and we are going to unite.
Well, Hong, who pretty much went toe-to-toe with everybody, bragging that she's a cook, a chef, she's going back to the kitchen. Remember, your chance to win tickets to the Albertsons Open. It is up to you. We would love to hear from you. Say 580-KIDO. A pair of tickets, actually, a pair of tickets to Counting Crows can be yours this hour simply by calling in and giving us the spiel, the skinny. Coming up, we'll take a look at the latest involving the Charlie Kirk case, review the primaries, and somebody's mad at the president again. Kevin Miller. Thank you to Winter World Boise for sponsoring this portion of the program, winterworldboise.com, 580-KIDO. Our friend, the pro wrestler Manny Lemons, will join us next hour. Manny has a big announcement of something going on here in the Treasure Valley. Always love our friend Manny from Devotion Championship Wrestling. And in the 8 o'clock hour, Tom Worcestersill will join us, the commissioner of the Big Sky Conference, talking a little bit about money, college football, and all things Big Tom. Let's go to Al in Ontario, who joins us now at 580-KIDO.
Good morning. I wanted to address Chandler, what he said in Dillon yesterday. Kevin, we need to understand something, and the people really need to understand this. It's of vital importance. The art of war is of vital importance to the state because it is a matter of life and death and a path to safety or ruin. Why is that? Because the nation lives or dies based on its capability to fight wars. That's the way it is, Kevin. And, look, war is something that is so important to our state. There's nothing more important. And Oswald Spengler said, peace is a desire. War is a fact. And history has never paid heed to human desires and ideals. It's just the way it is, Kevin. We must be good at war, and we must know about war. And unfortunately, we don't. And herein lies the problem. Look, you need to realize what President Trump is doing is trying to make sure that we live, our nation lives, and does not die. Now, you might say, oh, Al, you're being hyperbolic. I'm not. Okay, if you understand, if you read enough about oil and the economy and how those relate together, and you understand what the Straits of Hormuz is all about, you will know that what President Trump is doing is engaging in life or death of the United States of America. That's really what it is. But the people don't understand this. And look, how can I get you to understand this? I can't educate you, Kevin. I can't educate you and Mark from Eagle about oil because look, Kevin, I've got 15 books on my shelf about oil, economics, everything. I can't put it in your head, right? It just can't happen. But what I'm telling you is what President Trump is doing. And we had Chandler talk about the Sunnis and the Shiites.
President Trump said your oil company buddies are making too much money and they need to stand up for the American people. You and your beloved oil defender, Tea Party Bob, need to get in line with your president.
Well, look, here's the whole thing, Kevin. The president is a politician. He knows what you know and what Mark from Eagle knows. He knows that you're the majority. Okay, he has to speak to you, bro. Okay, he has to speak to ignorance. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. He understands that what he has to do is deal with a understanding within the American people that is not very high. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm just telling the truth, Kevin. Okay, we need to understand that the oil is money. Okay, I mean, it is. Okay, and we can't get away from that. And the fact that, that we have a little bit of the Sunnis here and the Shiite over here, and who kills more here or this. Look at that small potatoes. It doesn't even come into play when we're talking about war. Okay, understand what war is. Okay, the Ukraine and Russia today have probably killed 10 times as many troops as the United States has combat troops. Okay, that's war. Okay, understand, we are talking about civilizational change, war. But what do? We get Dylan talking about this like war doesn't. Look, we suffer from normalcy bias and recency bias. Okay, we had Pax Americana. We've had Pax Americana. People don't really understand reality when it comes to the war. We today have, and I don't want to be, I hate to be a defeatist, and I'm not, I love my country and I love my military, but I must tell you, it's a Marxist feminist military. You must read the book, Irresistible Revolution by Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer. Remember, he was at the Janice McGeehan rally, and I got to chat with him. But you need to understand that we have this failed Marxist feminist system that has taken over in our country. And what it's doing is it's destroying our capability to engage in military operations, I believe. Okay, and so this is crucial that people understand war. I mean, you better know it, and you better understand it. And the kids need to know it. I mean, go back to the Battle of New Market, right? During the Civil War. Go read about New Market. Who were those young people that died? Young high school kids fighting in the Civil War. Okay, you need to understand these things. And our leaders in our military need to understand these things. Unfortunately, they seem to understand what politics will get them promoted, right? And this is a terrible problem. We need to be serious about the art of war. Okay, and we need to understand. Okay,
so how does this relate to Chandler going on and on about the Sunnis and the Shia and Dylan?
Well, because the whole thing is this: the Sunni and the Shia. Kevin, this is small potatoes. I mean, when you're talking, Kevin, we're talking about. Kevin, if oil does not get through the Straits of Hormuz somehow, Kevin, I mean, I don't think that people really understand what the significance of that is to the United States of America. They don't get it. Okay, what I'm saying is we're talking about, Kevin, the amount of people how many people could die if you don't have oil coming to the United States? Okay, we are not self-sufficient when it comes to crude oil. Now, you have condensates and you have natural gas liquids that are used for plastic, but we only actually get about 13.8 million barrels per day of actual oil, okay, conventional crude oil. And we use about 20 million barrels a day. We're not self-sufficient with regard to that. We just aren't. Okay, so we are the largest user by far of oil in the world. If you cut this oil off, Kevin, I can't describe to you the economic pain and what that will do to this country. Okay, I mean, we're talking about, like I say, civilizational collapse. So, I mean, yeah, you're talking about a little terrorism here, a little terrorism there, whatever. Okay, what I'm talking about is civilizational collapse. Okay, and another thing, when we're talking about monopoly, you cannot have, Iran monopolizing the gas station of the world because
Well, I get that, Al. Thank you
lifeblood.
for the call. 580 KIDO. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Election results. And by the way, in Caldwell, it happened yesterday, Chief Ingram has resigned or retired. And Chief Ingram thanking the community. 4 years as chief. Came in from, I believe, L.A., took over the department in a tough, challenging time. Remember, the department had been investigated by the FBI. The department had been seeing some people being taken into court, a lot of allegations, a lot of challenges back and forth, a lot of lawsuits. Always appreciated Chief Ingram for coming on this program. And it will be interesting to see what goes on in Caldwell. And really, what do you say? We hope that the chief sticks around. I enjoyed running into him and talking to him when he was doing the community policing. Of course, a lot of issues on who will replace him. And you take a look at the last, really, 4 years in Caldwell with the mayor who replaced Mayor Nancolis, who was voted out, now the chief retiring. It's funny with law enforcement, and maybe one of our law enforcement folks can talk about this. They retire, and then they go get jobs elsewhere. And I go back to our friend in Nampa who retired, and then he became the police chief in Twin Falls. And then our friend Rob Weiniger, who served with distinction and honor, almost killed in the line of duty in Boise, a resident of Star, but now took a job in Texas to be a police chief there. Now, I don't know, maybe people say the lifestyle, the commitment to service, double, triple dipping. I'm not judging. But to me, some of these chiefs, they retire and then they move on, and maybe the job is political. I don't know. I have said this for many, many years. We had Chief Masterson in Boise, or Boise had Chief Masterson. And when he retired, we had Chief Bones, and there were some lawsuits there. And then Chief Bones, who I thought did the best job as far as community outreach, even though he listened to NPR, Chief Bones was just great. And then we had the men and make a disaster of the situation. And Chief Weiniger came back out of retirement, literally, to establish a credible person in the department. Not saying there weren't credible people there, because there are a lot of good people in the police department. But the fact that he didn't get the job, or once again, the Boise mayor wanted her own person, who I believe is a very nice man, very low-key, does his own thing, community policing, nice guy. We've had him on the program before. And then I would see Ron around town sometimes going to, I think it's called the Domination Fitness place, the Domination Gym. And, now he's in Texas. And so now in Caldwell, you have a turnover. And I will say, whether it's this, and remember, Caldwell, and we're not picking on Caldwell, but there were a lot of challenges, going from the school board to the county commissioners to the city council. A lot of Caldwell in the news. Then you had the election, Mayor Phillips coming in. And then you had Channel 6 trying to do their little expose of making the mayor look bad. And then you had the chief suing the city, and now he's retired. And let's hope that everybody moves on and everybody's friends, and we thank everybody for their service. But we're not going to bag on people when they're down. People do that to Kevin Miller all the time. It's funny. The people that like to bag on you or me, have you noticed they can dish it out, but they can't take it? A lot of that around here, I've noticed. They can dish it out, but they can't take it, which is pretty wild when you think about it. But again, like I said, we thank Chief Ingram for his work. We look forward to where the city goes from here. And as I said, as a board member of the West Valley Humane Society, and again, I'm speaking for myself, not the board, we really, really, again, want to work with those communities, the commissioners, and there'll be new commissioners this year. There'll be new commissioners, new members of Caldwell City Council, new mayor. Obviously in Nampa, you've got the turnover due to the death of Rick Hogebaum, and we move on. You know, we talk about, somebody said to me, well, Kevin Miller, what about this? You know, we're here to make differences, and that's by saving lives and educating the public. Time now for Ron Grant.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Who joins us now here at 580 KIDO. And if you got no money, you got no honey. And here he is, Ron Grant.
Good morning, young man. How are we doing today?
Pretty good. Just trying to figure out where we go from here, Ron. A lot of uncertainty. Al, moments ago talking about the end of civilization as we know it. And that means no money, Ron. How can we protect our money from the end?
Well, it's important, Kevin, to have an income source, a pension-like product, if you would, to make sure that you can live comfortably and enjoy your retirement. Many people work 35, 40 years in retirement, and most people are going to outlive their money for three reasons. Number one, they didn't start early enough putting money away. Number two, they didn't put enough away. But number three, and that's the habitual offender, they stayed in risk too long. And what do we know about risk? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, variable annuities, oil, gas, etc. My clients and I, we sleep at night knowing that we can't lose our principal and we can't lose any gains that we've already earned. Why would you want to earn some money and then lose it and have to go back and earn it again? That makes no sense. The financial planners and stockbrokers like to use the 4% rule. You should be able to live a comfortable retirement on 4%. But what if 4% is not enough for you? 4% rule is highly exposed to market volatility. Income is at risk during downturns. And you got to sell assets to generate income. And what if you have to sell short? Now you have less money. So my clients and I, we don't like that. We like a product that we get a lifetime income that we can't outlive. And if we're married, when one spouse passes, the other spouse gets that money for the rest of their life. And then when they've passed, whatever left goes to the beneficiaries.
Boy, that's a lot, Ron. So how can people get a hold of you to take care of their beneficiaries and themselves?
Well, I put together an educational website that it can go on 24/7, Kevin. Articles to read, videos to take a look at. There's even a book to download, 10 Things to Know About Retirement Income. And that's safermoneyspecialist.com. But, let's have a phone conversation right here in the Treasure Valley about how you can have a guaranteed income that you can't outlive. How about zero stock market risk? We get to participate in some of the upside, but never the downside. But most importantly, legacy protection for you and your family. That's your dignity money. That's the money you worked hard for. So 208-660-1372 is my number.
Ron Grant, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Appreciate you, buddy. Have a good day.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
And thanks to Ron Grant, Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. I think we're seeing something very strange. A friend of mine brought this up. And this is a family-friendly show, so I don't know how to put this, especially in the early morning hours. You ever see somebody that, well, maybe they're wearing a tank top and I've seen this at some of the gyms I've been to lately, guys walking around without shirts on. And I was at the Eagle Villa the other day, the Eagle Villa Fitness. And I'm watching a guy that is not an Adonis, built similarly to me on one of the machines without a shirt on. Now, he wasn't tan or anything. He was a pasty guy, and I'm going, man, what is that guy thinking? And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have AOC, who apparently has broken up with her fiance, I guess, it'd be fiance because they were engaged after 4 years. They've been together for many, many years. Remember, she froze her eggs, and now she's getting ready to go work out. And I don't know. I don't know if just wearing a massive sports bra is appropriate for a congresswoman or for anyone of that matter.
So I'm on my way to do my last strength training and lifting session, and let's go.
Right. Now, you can't see her face. Oh, now you can. Thank you, Sweet William, for that. The only thing you can see is AOC dressed very casually, something that you couldn't wear in church, or at least most churches. And you think to yourself, and she talked about her cosmetically appealing persona many years ago in GQ, saying how people have, oogled her and that sort of thing, and she plans to use that. So she's 36 years old. Some would say perhaps in the prime of her life, she got rid of her fiance, she's freezing her eggs, and now she's appearing in a sports bra.
So I'm on my way to do my last strength training and lifting session, and let's go. So I'm on my way to do my...
We're not going to go. And pardon me for being Peter Prude here at this one, but at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I mean, if you had somebody come over to your house and they're just wearing a sports bra after a workout, that'd be a giant Greg Ferrara uh-oh. And I'm looking at this, and here we're seeing this trend, and we see it in Boise, where we have the mayor, and I don't know if anybody saw the mayor on social media, but we see a very sweaty mayor who is feeling so compelled that during her running session, in this heat, in this air, in the toxicity, is showing us how she cools off in the Boise River, I believe, and I think she just jumps in with all her clothes on. And then not only do we see sweaty Lauren McLean, and God bless her for having it all out there, then we see her cooled off Lauren McLean. And, oh, isn't this great? Now, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, I, with all due respect, don't want to see cult of personality politicians. I want to see them trying to lower the cost of goods or taxes or the trash. And again, hello to all our people in the sanitation department. You're up and working very early. I know that's not an easy job with all the crazies on the road. But the whole idea of this cult of personality. Now, there is one mayor that does it great, and that is our man, Mayor Phillips, because he makes it about who he's visited and what the good works they're doing, as opposed to what we have here, where we have AOC in the gym, which is just crazy. And then we have the Democrats, and we'll get back to this in a minute, this whole idea of social media, and it has something to do with the Savannah Bananas and their appearance in Boise. I'll tell you about it next. Kevin Miller on your home for Hannity, 580-KIDO. Liberal loons lose? Well, here's Scott Jennings.
But when you're so crazy that Bernie Sanders and AOC won't even endorse you, you're pretty far out there. I think these holiday conversations are actually valuable. She hates Thanksgiving. Today, our own K-File here at CNN uncovered the fact that over in Michigan, Abdul El Sayed wants to get rid of the 4th of July. And I think the reason these things are...
I think he said we should get rid of fireworks.
He was very critical of the 4th of July. I think these are windows...
But I'm just saying getting rid of fireworks is different than getting rid of the 4th of July.
I think you're downplaying the message.
Well, we don't have the quote here, so let's...
It's so funny that here you have Scott Jennings trying to make a point, and Caitlin Collins, were you born in Connecticut? No, you were born in Alabama. It would be one thing if they played the gotcha game with everybody, but they always do it to the Republicans. By the way, Clay Travis breaking the story that Al Sayed doesn't like football. It's toxic masculinity. Well, toxic masculinity saved the world from the other toxic masculinity called Nazis and the fascist. And yes, the socialist. But I digress. But it's so funny. Here you have young Caitlin Collins trying to appease her liberal leaders by derailing Scott Jennings, simply saying a fact that they don't like the 4th of July. They don't like Thanksgiving. And we told you about it. We warned you. Anyway, coming up next, the man, the plan, the brand with the lemonade stand. the one, the only, Manny Lemons with Kevin Miller. You don't want to miss this one. Good morning. 580 KIDO. It's interesting. We've got rain on the way, but not rain like they had in Ohio. Prayers are needed for those friends in Ohio. How is it? 700,000 people without power. And to live in the Midwest, you have to be a hardy soul because you get the humidity, you get the storms, you get the snow, you get the tornadoes. And I suppose in the South, you get the hurricanes and everything else. But, man, pretty wild stuff when you think about it. If you're just waking up, the Wisconsin Democrats have held off the crazy, wacky, zany socialist, otherwise known as Hong. Francisca Hong will go back to the kitchen. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But joining us now, one of our favorite contributors, a man of the world, and he's going to go, the man, the plan, the brand, the lemonade stand, Manny Lemons. I know I have butchered your intro, but it's not every day we have a professional wrestler on this program. Hello, Manny.
Hey, guy, how we doing today, my brother?
I've admired you for years. You, your friends, your family. You started a business. You become a franchise. You travel all over the country. You're a dad. You're a role model, and you're coming to Idaho very soon. But Manny, for people that aren't familiar with you, and why in the world on a political show would we have on this great pro wrestler? Tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
Hey, you know why we're here? It's Zest of the Best. You know the rest. It's your boy, the man, the brand, the king of the lemonade stand live from Radio Land, baby. But, professional wrestler. Been wrestling 14 years. Traveled the world, done it all. Blessed and ready to just keep kicking more doors down,
Well, no, Manny, and I'm your Idaho stalker because sometimes I'll see you on some of the big shows and then I'll post it. But you know all the big stars. What's it like? And again, we've got a big announcement, and we're going to be promoting this and helping you out because you help us out because you make us smile and entertain us. But what's it like when you go to the WWE shows and the AEW shows? And it's not like you get there. You told us this the last time. It's not like you get there 5 minutes before showtime. You're there all day for maybe an appearance as brief as 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's an all-day process, brother. It's television, so you have to always practice and prepare for it, So it's a whole day. It's a whole system, Everyone's got to be on the same page. And like you said, sometimes you're waiting 12 hours just for that 30-second segment that you have. So it's the nature of the beast, but it's the coolest thing in the world, man. I'm blessed to be able to do it and be around the biggest stars. I mean, you want to be successful, you got to surround yourself with success, And that's truly what I feel I've done the last, 14 years of my life. And we're just going to continue to do it and continue to do it with this thing here coming to Idaho. I'm so happy we're able to do this because we talked about it for so long, trying to get something out there for you guys. And, I'm blessed that with, Brett Lauderdale's entrusted me to help lift this thing off, to help mark off another state in his book of trying to get all 50 states. So.
All right, Manny, you've kind of spoiled the league, but what's coming up and when and where and why is this important, sir?
So it's Game Changer Wrestling is coming to Boise, Idaho, Sunday, November 15th, live from the Treefort Music Hall. It'll also be live on Thrillers. So I don't know when the last time you guys have had a major wrestling promotion there, but this is a pretty big deal because this is the first time ever Game Changer's ever been there. And obviously the success of its first time being there is going to contribute to it coming back multiple times in the future, So it is a huge deal, man. It's a big deal, and I'm excited to be a part of it because, like I said, I think we've been talking for the last 5 years of getting me out there to actually wrestle, and here we are finally making it happen. I'll be headlining the event, so I'm blessed to say that.
Well, we've been trying to recruit you for some time, you, Rusty, and myself. So what is Game Changer Wrestling? What is GCW? We've heard a lot about it. It's a buzz, very, very popular with the young people.
Yeah, it's definitely, Game Changers definitely created a lot of buzz over the years of it. It's hardcore excitement wrestling, I always call it like the second coming of ECW, just the extreme action. You never know what's going to really happen. But it has been kind of a stepping stone, for the bigger stars to the WWE, and AEW, these bigger companies. It's really attracted itself and stand alone as one of the largest wrestling companies in the entire country. You've seen like they've partnered with like WWE ID. They've done, you've seen some of the bigger stars on, like Zilla Fatu just debuted on NXT. He was a huge contribution to GCW at some point in time, So you've seen the bigger stars. Just basically, it's been a stepping stone for them to get to that big Fed.
Well, no, yeah, and it's funny. I don't know about you, Manny. I do know about you, but, you're a man of action. We'll talk about you in a minute, but here at 580 KIDO, I keep watching some of these, like, hidden wrestling documentaries, and I found another one with a young John Moxley and a young Adam Cole, and before they were stars, and this is really what GCW is about, and, of course, a chance to see you that have been blowing it up not only across the country, but throughout the Salt Lake region as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, and I've done a lot of work with GCW. I'm blessed that I've be able to kind of being a regular on their program. It's wrestling. It's just the more you get, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. For so many years we've been trying so hard. It's blessed to be able to give this type of excitement, especially to a city that I've always wanted to contribute to.
Well, I mean, dude, the last time we had you on, you were talking about moving to Atlanta and then doing a show in Wyoming and then back in Atlanta. I mean, how many miles do you have like a significant year where you've put like the most miles ever on your vehicle, sir?
It's funny because it's like I think every year I get busier and busier. I think I've said it before on the radio with you guys. In 2019, I actually had over 300,000 miles on my Hyundai and it blew the engine. And we've done a lot of miles since then. So I don't know, man. If it's an opportunity, I'll go anywhere and any time, and nothing will excuse me from getting there because that's really what happens is we make our own excuses, and I have no problem driving from Atlanta to Salt Lake if it's going to create an opportunity to help elevate my game in this game.
Well, no, I don't know, but I watch you, Manny, and that's how I learn. Now, we're not letting you go, but if people want to follow you or get some of your great merchandise, how can they get a hold of you, Manny?
Yeah, just on all the social medias, at Manny Lemons, Instagram, Facebook, X. I got my Dark Prime apparel, where they're a big sponsor to me. They have a website where you can purchase all my recent merchandise. Just Manny Lemons at everything. It's real simple.
Well, I'm glad. So let's talk about again not only GCW coming to Idaho, but your promotion, Devotion Championship Wrestling. You've been on TV, you've been on the internet, you've been everywhere. What goes into the production, sir? What can you take us behind the scenes? And we're not talking about the Netflix show where they reveal everything, but it's not just throwing a ring up and then smacking each other. There's a lot that goes into this, sir.
Yeah, it takes a lot to go into it. Like you said, obviously there goes to setting up the ring. Obviously the production, the camera crew, making sure whatever story we're trying to project that night. So making sure that, we have the right stars in the right positions at the right time. Like I said, when we talk about those days at TV, being 12-hour days, that's no similar to, what we do at Devotion because we do shoot for YouTube and Thriller. So that we want to make sure that everything is, the most impeccable precision we have, at least at that time, so it goes to writing. You got to make sure every agent is assigned to the match, make sure the refs are there. There's so much in it that you have to blend it all and you just kind of try to make it the best show possible. And especially where it's like we don't have a WWE budget. We're doing it, basically a lot of us are doing it volunteer time at this level for the extra things, So it takes so much to do it, but it's also a blessing to be able to sit there and say we're able to create this, because that's all we do is we're here to create. We're here to create moments or create memories. And to being able to do that either behind the scenes, writing it on a piece of paper or projecting in the ring, being able to command an audience. That's the coolest thing in the world, and I'm so blessed to be a part of this industry.
Well, and you started that Devotion from scratch and, a lot of growing pains, but a lot of advancements. I mean, that's pretty awesome what you guys have done down there.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm blessed with everything we've been able to contribute. We definitely put this entire region on the map because, that's in a sense, this is kind of how Game Changer became. I worked with Brett Lauderdale 2024. We were able to do it in Salt Lake City, Utah. We've been attracting the areas around Utah, and it created opportunity. Do good business, and it'll create more business for you. And that's really what it is. It's a slow burn. It's not an overnight process, and we're nowhere being done. I really, like I said it before, I really believe Devotion could be the number one wrestling company on the planet. And, we're coming up on 8 years of it. I guarantee by year 10, we're going to be having some extremely good news,
I love the hook, "Are you devoted?" I love that hook. I still love that to this day. Manny Lemon's joining us. So, Manny, physically, when you played college football, you've been in the ring. How demanding is it? And again, you're not talking to a lot of people that have a lot of experience. Is there? And I'm sorry for asking this question, but I'm not asking it for me. I'm asking for the public. I mean, how hard is the ring? Is it a trampoline?
No, brother. It's just a bunch of plywood with a little bit of carpet padding on there. It's funny because everything we do in the ring is real. The strikes, the fights, the falls. You can't really fake falling down. I guess it's kind of doing it with a little bit like, teaching your body to take the impact versus, giving the impact, but it's all real. Everything we do, it's just, it's a predetermined battle. What we call it is scripted combat.
Well, and I'm sure, again, for most of us, we'd think running the ropes would be fun because you bounce off of it. But isn't there something called rope burns or something like that? If you're not used to it, your skin isn't used to it.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing, brother, because you got to create you create that stamina on your body, like so many times people come to my wrestling school and they try to hit the ropes and it's just like it creates the rope burn. But, you build it up over time. It really is. It's repetition. But usually the first 2 or 3 trainings is usually, when people are going to be able to hack it or not, because that's usually around the time they take the bumps or they hit the ropes. And it is physically demanding pain. It's scripted combat, as I said. There's nothing fake about what we do. It's just we're out there telling a story and it's predetermined,
Well, I only know by what you teach us, Manny. Physically, how much, have you ever been hurt? And if so, how do you deal with that?
It's there's this thing in wrestling. It's like you always wrestled injured but never hurt, or vice versa, however Al Snow says that. But it's just one of those things, man. It's like, there's no off season in wrestling, so there's really not really a time to recover. So there's a lot of bumps and bruises and aches. I think yesterday I spent a whole day recovering, ice baths and hot tubs and whatnot. You have to do that now, especially as the longer you've been in the industry. There's really, I'm blessed to say that I've had minimal injuries. I've torn my pec. I've had little beaks and bruises along my shoulders and knees and whatnot, but nothing too serious out of the realm. I always try to be safe, but that's why, we have to train, because we'd like to protect ourselves. Training's very crucial, and it's muscle memory. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And, that's what's going to protect you and your opponent. We're in there we're in there having a dance, and it's our job to protect each other, so we try to minimal the injuries as much as possible.
GCW coming to Boise. Manny Lemons, the headliner, joining us to discuss here at 580 KIDO. How true, or what was it? Did you really like the Netflix show Wrestlers with OVW and your mentor, Al Snow?
I like the fact, because I like to see my friends have success, right? I really like, anytime we can get wrestling out there, it's always good, to sit there and say I was a huge fan of it. Yeah, because like I said, it creates awareness to our business, and that's really what it is. We're trying to create the casual viewer, and Al had the opportunity to be able to do that with his Netflix show, and I don't know. I think they're in talks of a season 2 or whatnot. Last time I spoke to him, I really don't know, and that could be a little spoiler, so don't quote me on that. But I love it, man. I love it anytime we can get out there and the show can educate our viewers of what it is we actually do,
Manny, have you ever questioned yourself when you're, have that Bob Seger moment? Here I am on the road again.
Oh, all the time. Every time. And then all of a sudden, really what it is, what changes it, brother, is the fact that when you walk out there and you feel the roar of the attention of the audience, or even showing up and you see a little boy, he comes up to you and tells you he's your favorite wrestler. It's like, it creates such it's the coolest feeling in the world, and it creates an awareness to it where you're like, all right, there's a reason why I do this, and that's the why. You know what I'm saying? Everything we do results to the why. Why are we fighting? What is this? What story are we trying to tell? It's the coolest thing in the world. But the minute you hear the roar of the crowd, are you able to connect with the audience? I think all the beaks, the bruises, everything goes away in that particular moment in time. It's like a drug.
Manny Lemons, what is it about you, unlike most of us, that you're living your dream? And what would you say to inspire people, sir?
Don't ever quit. Because I always tell people that all the time. Because a lot of the stuff that's happening with me right now in my career, I turn 34 next week. I'm 14 years into business. I've been wrestling since I was 19. If I would have quit 5 years ago, everything that's happening for me right now wouldn't have happened. And make sure you love it and you're passionate about it too. You never want to go in there and be bitter and have a negative mindset. Have a positive mindset with everything you're doing. It may not be your time right now. It doesn't mean your time's not coming. And the biggest thing with life is you got to endure the curves and the punches. And that's what we do. We continue to get up and go forward every day. And like I told you before, my goal is to become the biggest star on the planet, and we're not stopping there till we get there.
Manny Lemons, what can people do? I saw you posting on Facebook and other social media to take part in this big show coming up. We're going to be there. We're going to support you, Manny, because I can't wait to see you in Idaho, and I know our friends at Wrestle Club will hopefully that they'll join us as well, and it'll be good.
Yeah, they'll be there helping out as well. I spoke to Rusty yesterday about it, but no, I mean, like I said, just kind of stay tuned. I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and kind of announce it because, like I said, it's exciting. We've been talking about this for years, trying to get something there. It's exciting. It's an exciting time, and tickets will be going on sale soon. So be watching out the Game Changer Wrestling social media. I'll obviously be blasting it all over my social media, so there's not really a chance for you to miss it. But I would say just stay tuned because for the announcements and the cards and whatnot. So.
Well, Manny, you let me know, and we'll put you back on. And, I get jealous when you're on with those Utah people. I go, what about your favorite potato here? But we love you, Manny.
Love you too, my brother. And I always appreciate you, man. I appreciate the years of support. You've always been in my corner. And, like I said, I never forget the people who were there for me.
Well, we can't wait to see you, Manny. And, again, if people want to get a hold of you, get some merchandise, get inspired, how can they reach you?
At Manny Lemons on Instagram, X, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all the socials, got all my links to my merch there. And like I said, I'll be blasting GCW from now on until then, so you guys will have a lot of the 411 of everything going on.
Manny, take care of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. Have a good one, man. You too.
Our great friend Manny Lemons, living his dream, very inspiring, coming to Idaho. And our friend Rusty and the Outlaws, Rusty the Outlaw, and others with Wrestle, and that guy with the mustache who listens to this program, they'll be joining as well. A great local promotion. They'll be at the Revolution. We'll talk more about that coming up. And by the way, Manny wouldn't have a problem doing this, but if you're just waking up, we have tickets to the Albertsons Open if you'd like to go see The Counting and the Crows. We have a pair for you. All you have to do. And I think we're not going to do caller 10. We're just going to do who has enough guts to do 580 KIDO. 580 KIDO. If you have enough guts to walk into the arena of ideas and you could say that on the air so many times, you're going to go. And we appreciate that. And we appreciate you listening. Just our way of thanking you for being here and, of course, making a big difference. Speaking of making a big difference, our friends at Beacon Home Services. Quit freaking, call Beacon. Heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical. You never know what you have until you don't. And for me, that was a throne, a toilet. And I can remember my pappy, Daddy Miller, saying, hey, you got some problems there. And I go, hey, what do you know? And lo and behold, we had a little leak because the builder, great home, but didn't install the toilet correctly. And it was my dad that picked up on that, said, you got some leakage, you might have some mold. I go, what do you know? Well, we had Beacon Plumbing out here because they do not only plumbing, but drains, electrical, heating, plumbing, HVAC, all sorts of things, because we were concerned about our air conditioning unit. And we said, with the heat, the smoke can't be good for the HVAC, and we were right. And if you follow myself or Mrs. Miller on the Facebook, you would see that. So when we came out there, we had somebody from Beacon Plumbing take a look at our toilet. Goes, yeah, you got some issues there. They came in, they figured it out. They worked with one of their partners to get rid of the mold in the bathroom. They came out after the mold was gone, took care of the toilet, and I'm so happy to see that toilet. I'm glad that toilet's working again. You never know how much you appreciate your toilet until it's out of commission. And then they decide, well, we're going to look around under your crawl space for a moment. and they found a little leak there, and they took care of that as well. That's going above and beyond. They do that every time. Book your service today. Beacon Home Services, 208-904-9642. That's 904-9642. Quit freaking. Call Beacon, or just remember beaconplumbing.com. Please tell them Kevin Miller sent you. Coming out of Wisconsin, no, Hong didn't win. So the Democrats are happy about that. But was the win too costly? We'll talk also about their war on holidays. Apparently they don't like holidays anymore, including the 4th of July. But a story that I believe Clay and Buck were talking about yesterday, it broke right after we got off the air. Get this. The University of Michigan has dropped letter grades for their freshmen starting in 2027. That's right. The University of Michigan, to eliminate the traditional letter grading for incoming freshmen to combat the mental health crisis among students. Yes, this is real. And you say to yourself, well, that could never happen here, Kevin Miller. Remember, what's in Looneyville one day turns into mainstream consumption the next. I mean, who would have ever thought that apparently AOC didn't break up with her fiance recently? She gave him the boot 2 years ago. Fascinating. And again, if you're thinking she's not really a serious politician, well, she's about ready to be in our national attention for quite some time. Coming up, we'll talk about whether or not it's time to continue to get rid of letter grades, or should we keep our traditional American values, and the war on American holidays. That and more next. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO.
Destiny and destroying Native Americans, or it was the transatlantic slave trade, where folks who, quote, founded this country on the backs of Native folks that they destroyed, then captured people, enslaved them, and had them work their fields because they thought it was their right? And all of this, like a lot of these narratives, you kind of see echoed in the ethos of football.
There we have it. Michigan Democratic Senate nominee Abdul Al-Sayed saying football is similar to slavery and destroying Native Americans. Pretty wild stuff when you think about this. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Now, here's something. We can talk about college football all we want, but those people in Michigan, they love Michigan State, the Michigan Wolverines, Western Michigan, which will be coming to the Blue. By the way, that was a game that I believe Kellen Moore played, and it's finally paying off. But again, they have a lot of population. A lot of people love football, but we write about that. Our friend Alex Slim, in our latest article on our website, KIDOtalkradio.com, where he takes a look at some of the big opponents of Boise State. One of them is Western Michigan. They love football. And when we're taking a look at the lunacy of our entire country being attacked, last hour we talked about AOC and her sports brawl. Here we're talking about getting rid of the 4th of July, Thanksgiving, and American football. And these are people saying it with a straight face.
But when you're so crazy that Bernie Sanders and AOC won't even endorse you, you're pretty far out there. I think these holiday conversations are actually valuable. She hates Thanksgiving. Today, our own K-File here at CNN uncovered the fact that over in Michigan, Abdul El-Sayed wants to get rid of the 4th of July. And I think the reason these things are...
I think he said we should get rid of fireworks.
He was very critical of the 4th of July. I think these are windows...
But I'm just saying getting rid of fireworks is different than getting rid of the 4th of July.
I think you're downplaying the message.
Well, we don't have the quote here. Let's not adjudicate.
I think these are windows into the souls of these anti-American radical communists.
God, come on.
If you hate Thanksgiving and you hate the 4th of July, what you're really saying is, I hate some of the pillars that undergird American culture. And how are you going to have a conversation with a voter about affordability or public safety or anything else if you're trying to get rid of Thanksgiving and the 4th of July? I mean, if I were Christmas and Easter, I wouldn't be feeling too comfortable right now.
Yeah.
A great Southernism right there by Scott Jennings on CNN at 580 KIDO. Look, we could joke about boys playing in girls' sports years ago, or You know, that old thing, sometimes I feel like a nut, sometimes I don't. Almond Joy has nuts, Mounds don't. And here we have Scott Jennings saying the war on American holidays. We have predicted the war against Thanksgiving for quite some time. Hong was the first one to break it out. And you could see she lost by 2% of the vote. If she doesn't do that interview with Caitlin Collins, I bet she wins. Caitlin Collins, the lib from CNN, cost her that seat because she exposed her. And isn't that what good journalists are supposed to do? They're supposed to expose people. But before we get to that, and by the way, we'll take your calls at 580-KIDO. Here's another one that gets me. A lot of people went to the Savannah Bananas game. And I'm so happy that people went to the first college football stadium that didn't feature the Savannah Bananas. And yes, there were a lot of growing pains, and yes, there were a lot of this, that, and the other. But people were complaining that the Bananas just focused in on social media. So in other words, it didn't matter that you had 37,000 people that were pretty much programmed to be there because it's the in thing. Nobody knew the party animals from the tailgaters from sourdough bread. And instead of focusing in on the crowd that paid to be there, that won the lottery to watch the baseball version of the Harlem Globetrotters, and here you can get autographs with people, I don't know, Sam or Bill or Steve. It's you talk about a masterful job of marketing that, you know, Manny Lemons and I were talking about. That's the Savannah Bananas. And yet the big criticism was they didn't focus on the crowd that was there. They focused in on the phone. And the phone has become all powerful. Case in point where we have people like AOC running around, letting everybody know she's working out, she's freezing her eggs, and she gave her fiance the boot.
I saw your Instagram. What made you decide to go public with that decision?
Yeah.
And was your fiance supportive of it?
You know, I think, I think what's so important, I think, in this moment is that women were often taught to keep this information very quiet and very private. And everyone has that choice, and I think a lot of us would prefer for that. But I also think that when you want to make those kinds of decisions, when you want to make those kinds of decisions, you really benefit from hearing from other women and from destigmatizing it. And that's kind of what I've sought to do in this process. And yeah, everyone, all of my loved ones have been very supportive. Thank you.
Yeah, including your fiance that you gave the boot. You know, it goes back to Seinfeld. And there's a scene in Seinfeld where Elaine is dating a guy going through medical school, and she's going to marry a doctor. And then he graduates, he goes through his internship, his residency, and he dumps her. And he said, you know, I always knew that I'd become a doctor, but I'd always knew that as soon as I became a doctor, I would dump the person that got me there. And, of course, the Larry David creation with Jerry Seinfeld and vice versa, such a study in human psychology. And yet, I can't help but think that for poor AOC's boyfriend, he was with her when she was no one, and now she's going to run for the presidency. She's freezing her eggs, but he's not going to get her eggs. Exactly. Let's get you to work safely and on time.
The non-socialist won. David Crowley does not a moderate or centrist make. As Milwaukee County executive, he has had them teetering on the verge of bankruptcy, a $47 million deficit as we sit here. He has attacked the FBI. He has elevated DEI as a policy by the government through the Milwaukee County Executive's office. He tried to make it a felony for police officers to delete body cam data, and at the same time trying to reduce the sentences for and the burdens on the felons, had a vaccine mandate there for COVID for prisoners until 2023.
There we have it, the one, the only Kellyanne Conway. Remember her back in the day, those of you that have been around, as Kellyanne Fitzpatrick. Great to see her back doing what she does best, which is breaking down political elections after working for the president. There you have it from Fox with Bill Hemmer and Martha McCallum earlier today at 580-KIDO. Again, amazing when you think about the loonies on the left, and particularly this guy in Michigan who says football is akin to slavery.
Football is very much associated with a particularly masculine and oftentimes toxically masculine culture, and so much of it was about you wanted to be able to get back.
There we
your
have
team.
You want to apparently playing football is now evil.
Well, to get back.
Exactly. Get back in
your
what
team, and you really aren't allowed to show pain or vulnerability. That's part of the sport.
So what's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? CNN actually apologizes for uncovering this. And I know, again, Clay and Buck have been all over this. Our friend Nancy at Albertsons, not to be confused with our friend Jen at Fred Meyer. By the way, it's funny because she goes, well, I listened. I didn't know that Clay that you have on with that Buck is Clay Travis, the Clay Travis. I go, yes, it is the Clay. And Clay is brilliant when it comes to cultural issues. It is truly his strong point. And pointing out the woke, pointing out the vaccines, pointing out Fauci, and then pointing out Al Sayed, saying you don't love football. How in the world can you get elected not only in Michigan, Nebraska, Idaho, if you don't love football? But again, you got to wonder what are they teaching in schools if this is the product? Where you have the guy saying, I don't like football. Well, by the way, apparently his sound clip doesn't
Football is very much a...
My goodness gracious, we apologize for our technical incompetency. Shall we play it again? Play it from the top. We're going to go live.
Football is very much associated with a particularly masculine and oftentimes toxically masculine culture, and so much of it was about you wanted to be able to get back.
Apparently, getting back
for your
is
team,
bad.
and you really aren't allowed to show pain or vulnerability. That's part of the sport. Football.
Yeah, that's called being a man. By the way, multiple agencies are responding to an early morning fire Wednesday that sparked near State Highway 55 north of Banks. Apparently, the fire burned approximately 75 acres. Pretty wild fire season that we've had, and amazing when we have so many people fighting fires and we just kind of move on. So thank you, everyone associated with that. We are taking your calls on Al Sayed saying he doesn't like football. What's next? Well, we have AOC freezing her eggs. We have the liberal loons going after the president because, well, quite frankly, there was a threat against his life. There was a threat against his life. And the Secret Service wasn't playing around. And they said, you're going to have to go on this plane and you're going to have to not go public with it. And then we have people saying, well, you need the media's life was in jeopardy. Well, with all due respect, the media, to go on Air Force One or to cover the government, you have to be credentialed. There's a privilege, there's risks, there are rewards. And now they're trying to gin up that the president did something bad. And we're going to go very, very old school. And we're going to go back to the history of this great radio station. Unparalleled in the state of Idaho. Unparalleled in the state of Idaho. Over 100 years, Idaho's first radio station right here at 580 KIDO. Of course, our back in the day, this was known as a rock and roll station, and different call letters, the mythical KFXD that we still have in our family. But you go back to September 11th. Now, I don't know what you were doing September 11th. I can tell you what I was doing. I was doing a morning show called Kevin Miller in the Morning in Birmingham, Alabama, with that evil mutant John Mounts. And we covered the thing as it happened. And we had reports from a lady by the name of Ann Compton, who was on Air Force One, and we didn't know where the president was. And now she's, they bring her out of retirement. A very nice lady. Back when reporters actually reported, and they've got her on talking about September 11th, and then we have Caitlin Collins. Well, I know that, Caitlin, you're 30, if that. And there's nothing wrong with being 30. But you didn't live it like the rest of us did. It would be like me trying to lecture someone who lived through Pearl Harbor and listened to it on the radio. And Ann Compton saying, well, the president, I told them the press has to be on there. Well, there's a different correlation. Air Force One, during that terrible time, that was here domestically during September 11th. And remember, the attacks on the Pentagon, we didn't have all the video schmidio feeds. I can remember being in a room surrounded by 30 people watching the television as we were breaking this down and informing people on 5 radio stations. And we were the backup. And if Atlanta went down, we were going to carry the Atlanta station. They were going to carry our programming. And I can remember the uncertainty of that day. I can remember the uncertainty of that time. And I can remember Ann Compton going, we don't know where we're going, but we're going. And the courage of George Bush saying, I'm coming back and I'm going to address the American public from my home in the White House. And people saying, well, you shouldn't do that, Mr. President. Well, he made the call. And now the media trying to compare that to what happened in Turkey. Look, Turkey, there are friends, but they're friends with a lot of people. They're kind of like that floater in the office, at the gym. They, they'll hang out with it, kind of like Tucker Carlson. If you heard his latest with Hunter Biden, he's friends with both Candace Owens and Erica Kirk. I don't know how he can do that, but he's a floater, a very talented, brilliant floater. And then we have Turkey, that they're buddies with China, they're buddies with Russia, they're buddies with the Muslim Brotherhood, and also they're a member of NATO. And whether it was Great Britain or France or whoever else, no one is going to protect our president and our leader better than us. So what did we find out? There was a threat against the president, perhaps a surface-to-air missile. Could have launched in Turkey, could have launched in Iran. And they said, well, why take a chance? So the president moves on, does the right thing, talks about how dangerous it was. Also, the Secretary of State was on that same plane, along with a few other people. And, well, their lives are in jeopardy. Wherever you go on Air Force One, even in this country where there have been assassination attempts, it is a danger. And by the way, you got to take a look at President Trump, the man. And whether you like him or not, Jim and Star, whether you appreciate what he has done or his policies, he's human. How many of these attempts on his life do we not know about? And the president, doing the right thing should not cost you your life in America. Case in point, Charlie Kirk. But here you have a guy who's 80, 81. Many people, I'm talking about my buddy that's turning 60. He's retired already. Will retire. He'll probably live for at least 20 more years. Probably, knowing that guy, probably do 100. And he's chosen a life. He's paid his dues. Here you have this guy that doesn't have to do any of this. And if you've ever gotten a bad social media message that hurts your feelings, imagine what it's like to be that guy. Well, he brings it on. It doesn't matter. And I think the guy is tired. You've got, this club called the Republicans where, hey, elect us and we're going to help you. And then we have John Thune in the Senate saying, sorry, there's no votes. And that's akin to, all things are relationships. All things are human interactions. I don't care what the algorithm. The algorithm will not replace humanity, at least not right now. And it comes down to, does John Thune and the establishment Republicans, do they really want the SAVE Act passed? It's like the person that you're saddled with at work. Do you really want them to succeed if it's not your hire? Well, maybe you don't push them as much. Maybe you don't, somebody from another company doing the same thing. You're supposed to work together, but they're doing a better job. Do you really allow them to be successful? I'm not saying you, but we've seen this in the workplace. We've seen this with other human interactions. And that's what we're seeing right now with the president. So I think the guy personally is tired. He goes to Turkey because he feels a semblance of loyalty to Erdogan. And they're perhaps the biggest threat on his life is there. He's a proud man. He doesn't want to show fear. But they're saying, dude, if you're on this plane, there's chances are it could be attacked. And we're not Harrison Ford in Air Force One. You're Donald John Trump. How many times do you want to tempt fate? And so the media now is ginning up this story about, well, the president did this and the president did that, and how dare he? I think sometimes, just like that song, you just want to get away. You just want to move on. So, again, this story will continue to resonate because they're not using it to tell the story. They're using it to attack him.
Hidden in an airport catering vehicle and then slipped aboard another aircraft. That's how President Trump was secretly moved out of Turkey after last month's NATO summit. The president said Tuesday his security team made the call.
They wanted me to go on a different flight, a different plane, equal safety, but they wanted me to do it, so I do it. I do what they say.
The Washington Post reports a credible threat from Iran prompted the operation, but aides, officials, and reporters remained aboard the decoy plane, apparently unaware of the threat, raising questions about why that aircraft was sent into the air with them still aboard. Matt Murphy, Fox News.
Okay, so what have we learned? Al Sayed doesn't like football, but wants to be a senator in Michigan. Yeah, I'm saying that with a straight face. AOC broke up with her guy, and now she's running around in a sports bra. And here we have the media saying, well, why were they still aboard? Okay, hello, beep, 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 beep. Hello, Iranians. The president is not on this plane. The media is not on this plane, so we're going to give you a heads up. And that they weren't informed, I'm sorry, does being a member of the media entitle you to special privileges? Entitlements, if you will. More of those stories coming up. By the way, I do want to remind you, if you'd like to go see the Counting Crows for free. No, we're not doing Caller 10, Sweet William. No, we're not. Not this hour. It is 580-KIDO. That is the hill that I'm going to die on. 580-KIDO. Call in for details. Kevin Miller, you know it. Say it with me. 580-KIDO. It's Tom Wistersill joins us now. Tom, always a pleasure to have you on, sir.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you doing, my friend?
Well, anxious to hear. Great. Like a lot of us in athletics and media, we're still here. So anxious to hear your thoughts on a crazy off season, and of course, not only the passion but the economics of another college football season.
Yeah, this time of year it's always fun and exciting because, as you know, we spent the last few months talking about the parts of college athletics that aren't exciting, right? It's been all about trying to get federal legislation done, players getting paid, and the negotiations around that, transfer portal problems, numerous, you get the off-season scandals. And so now we get to talk about real sports again. And this is the best time of year because now the student athletes are back on campus. Soccer, volleyball, football season is here, and let's go. So we're fired up.
Well, obviously, you take a look at all the changes. You've been in athletics for quite some time. What do you make of this? How do you survive?
To me, it's about you have to remember kind of your core values of what makes college athletics special, and that's, helping young people achieve their dreams, bringing them to campus, giving them a great student-athlete experience there, both, on the field and off the field, whatever they choose to do, and encouraging them along their path. Things have gotten more challenging because of some of the circumstances I mentioned earlier, but, to me, it's still about if you focus in on that, usually you end up in a good path. It's when we get sideways from that, and it's all about money, and who's got the best TV package and those types of things. That's where we seem to get sideways. But if we focus in on the reason we're all here, without the student athletes, college athletics doesn't exist. So let's focus on them.
Well, I guess we won't be bringing up the crazy Akron Zips thing. And who would have ever thought, you as a former AD at Akron, me as an alumnus at Akron, Jeremiah Dickey, a man that worked with you, for you at Akron, that the Akron Zips would be on TMZ and everywhere else, sir.
How exciting is that? Good for them. And, Andrew Gridgich, their new AD, has been there just about a year now. Great idea to come up with this offensive coordinator of the day. So it certainly went viral about people signing up to call their first series, work with their head coach and offensive coordinator to call the plays and that. And so been fun to see where that's kind of taken off too. And, it's always interesting this time of year. You seem to get those viral things that happen around college sports. And it just so happens it's something that's near and dear to all of our hearts that you just mentioned there, all three of us, with the connections to the Akron Zips. So good for them. Be fun to watch as it gets closer to the selection.
Well, and again, you have a ringing endorsement from the ringy ding ding there, Tom. So, and I like to go formal, so I'm just going to go to Commissioner, if you don't mind. I love, again, that's your title. You've earned it. If you don't mind, I just want to address you as Commissioner, if that's okay.
Whatever you prefer is good with me, Kevin.
Well, you know all about going viral, and there is a lot of marketing thing. I love what you all did, getting game day to the game, to Montana. You out there with the chicken wings, with the kids, staying all night. That's truly what college football has become. And again, what it's always been about. And again, we don't talk about the money, but the idea, though, that you did get the old age aspect of, football in the cold with the new age going viral, getting ESPN there. So the game has changed. You've got to appeal to a lot of people on a lot of platforms.
No doubt about that. It's society has changed, as you well know, Kevin, and people are looking. It's the quick fixes that are in our society that a lot of people gravitate towards. But I feel like as you get older, you kind of you think about those youthful days and those experiences that mattered so much to you, and so. For us, as we look at college athletics across the Big Sky Conference and across all of Division I, it's about making those memories. And it's about those moments in time that you'll always look back to. And it could have been you as a young kid, going to a Zips game. And, for me as a football coach's son, it was being at practice when I was, 6, 7 years old or going to a big time event, with your friends or parents and those.
Yeah.
And so, as we think about what we're doing in college athletics, we're creating those memories. For those young kids that grow up in Boise, that around there, that blue turf means something to them when they go out to other places or move other places. They talk and think and remember those times on the blue turf. And so, whether it's that or it's Starch Madness, our basketball tournament there in Boise.
Yeah.
And trying to build those memories for those people. And to me, that's what's special about college athletics that other things don't have.
Well, let's talk about the Big Sky football season coming up. You've been trying to direct me there for quite some time. How are you feeling about the conference? And, of course, getting into, unlike the other division, you all have a playoff. Well, you have a big playoff where a lot of teams get in. And the Big Sky has represented the conference very well in the playoff.
Every year the Big Sky begins, every team begins with the same couple of goals. They want to win the Big Sky Conference and win the national championship. We were fortunate last year. Montana State won the national title at the FCS level. And, typically we'll get 4 or 5 teams in the playoffs out of our now 13 teams because we brought in Southern Utah and Utah Tech after Sacramento State left to go FBS. So we enter this year with high hopes. Most preseason polls have 3 of our teams in the top 5 or 6. So, we expect to be there again in Nashville playing for a national title, which is great. And I love where we're at as a conference. We got stability. We've got teams and coaches that perform at a high level. And it makes for a really exciting football season. I can't wait to get started, which is great because that's coming up in 2 weeks. So we're fired up.
Well, and, one of the magical things about the Big Sky, there must be something about the water in Montana because even though the Bobcats won, a great accomplishment, they still got the Grizz. And, again, the Grizz always show up as well when you're talking about one of the many big games in the Big Sky.
Yeah. It was last year was a unique year in Montana because They always play at the end of the regular season in the Brawl of the Wild. Montana State won that game. And then the way the playoff brackets worked out, they played again in the semifinals in Bozeman. Yeah. So it was really a cool moment to be there. You kind of wish, that was the national championship game. Would have been fun to watch. But nonetheless, for us to have teams at the top, and you hit it on it earlier, which is meaningful championship opportunities. That's what this is all about. Every one of our schools has a chance to win a national championship in football, and that's not true in FBS. There's only a select few teams who can actually win the national championship because of the talent level difference, and that's why we're really proud of FCS football and what we represent. Because that national championship trophy rests in the Big Sky right now.
Our great friend, the Commissioner, Tom Worcester, joining us from the Big Sky Commissioner, talking about academics, football, athletics, and everything else. With the world that we live in today, how tough is it for kids to be on scholarship, whether they get money or not, to make the grades? Because that means, obviously, without academics, there is no athletics.
Yeah, it's become more and more challenging for student athletes, and I think for a couple reasons. One is, I think the time commitment that our student athletes are asked to spend on their sport has just increased over time. The expectations, the pressure, and so that's number one. Number two, social media exists now, and it didn't, obviously, when you and I were that age, and many of the listeners, and so that just changes their reality or their perception of reality around themselves, around their teammates, around their friends, around people their age, and that type of thing. The other thing that I think has changed dramatically is the number of online courses that student athletes take. And I have very mixed feelings about that because on one hand, the convenience factor of being able to do your schoolwork at night sometimes can be helpful. But I think getting them out of the classroom is not a great thing. And having student athletes interact with the general student population is really important. It's an important part of their growth as young people. And so I think that's really changed the academic mission and profile for the schools and for the student athletes. It's something we've had to adjust to. And I'm not sure we're doing that as well as we probably should. But it's certainly something that we pay attention to in athletic administration as we think about those student athletes matriculating through the schools.
Well, let's talk a little bit about basketball. I know it's very early, but obviously the Big Sky and Boise continue to have this great partnership. Why Boise? Are we like the Switzerland, if you will, in the Big Sky Conference?
In some ways, that's a good way to put it. We just signed an extension. We're going to enter a new contract taking us through 2031 to be there in March for Starch Madness. The cool thing is with our additional teams coming in, we've added an extra day. So we'll start on Friday night and then the crown champions on Wednesday night. There's a combination of factors. I would say one of the top things is you've got great people there like a John Cunningham who runs Block 22 there in the hotels that really care about this event, put a tremendous amount of effort, energy, and money into keeping the Big Sky there. The proximity of the great arena downtown to all the hotels and bars and restaurants is wonderful. See our student athletes and their parents and friends and fans just walking around downtown during the tournament is such a cool thing. And it is neutral ground. It's a true neutral site experience. We can create a great experience in the venue. You can get 2,000-3,000 people in there, and that place is rocking. So I ask our student athletes every year about their experience, and they always say to me, Tom, this feels like a big-time event. And to me, that's what I want it to feel like. Because for most of them, really, we only send one men's team and one women's team to the national tournament. So, it's like for the rest of them, their seasons end on that court, and I want them to go out thinking, wow, that was a big-time event. Boise does a great job of that. Last year, we had Idaho won both the men's and the women's championship. And so, those Vandals around Boise, they sure came out. That place was rocking. And fun to have that there, and really glad we could extend the partnership there for Boise.
No, the Vandals do show up. And again, most of the adults and grandparents, they all went to Idaho and before the rise of Boise State. And many kids, obviously, Tom, as you know, still go to Idaho. So it's great that they have that tournament here. When we take a look at the future of the sport, how do you see it playing out, sir?
Well, I love basketball. I played college basketball myself at a small school in Minnesota, so I love basketball. But, I think there will always be a place for different levels of basketball. The money's always been at the top. Now it's just much more. You hear about players making $3-4 million a year. And so that's changed things. The transfer portal has made it difficult to build rosters because players are changing teams every year, and we're, in some ways we're like AAA. You got like the best players in the Big Sky, whether it's the Pac-12, the Mountain West, the Big 12. I mean, they're watching our schools. Who's the best player there? I wonder if they can help us. And so, you just kind of have to embrace the changes because they're coming no matter what. So it's probably not as pure as it once was. But, I'll tell you what, the level of play is tremendously high, and it's so much fun to watch. That's why I just thought anytime I get a chance to talk to you or anybody else in Boise, I'm like, you got to come down and watch Starch Madness when we're there because the level of play is really a lot of fun. And that's what makes me feel good about the future of basketball because there's just so much talent out there. So it's fun to be a part of.
Now, were you a low post guy, Tom?
Oh God, no. I was a 6'1", 180-pound point guard back in the day, and so I might look like I play defensive line now, but no, I was a skinny little point guard back then.
What about the outside shot, Tom? Could you hit the big one?
I could shoot it a little bit, pass it a little bit. Good defender. Was never a great player, but always good enough. Loved it, and and it helped me a lot. Like all athletes, participating in athletics does for young people. Just teaching them so many things about themselves and about fighting through adversity and achieving goals and communicating with teammates and all of those lessons that all athletes learn at a young age that they carry on to today. And I think that helps me in my job as commissioner of the Big Sky. And in working with our student athletes and our coaches and that, and just having a history in those sports, I think is important.
Well, I will say this for you. Unlike all the other conferences in our neighborhood, you avoided litigation.
Well, we're very fortunate. Like I said, we got a good group. Now, we all know litigation could be coming tomorrow, but we hope not. But it's been an interesting thing to watch there, but just really happy for Jeremiah and Boise State and all the great things going on there that he's doing. And it'll be a fun football season for everybody out west here. So looking forward to getting that kicked off here very soon.
Well, Tom, anything else that you would like to share with us while you're here? We appreciate your time. I know you've got a conference at Empire to run, so we appreciate you making time for us as we get ready for Big Sky football. Anything you'd like to get out to the public, sir?
Well, I think, again, we're very fortunate to have great supporters in Boise. You can watch all Big Sky sports on ESPN Plus, and so just invite people to check out. I don't have the list in front of me of all the high school student athletes that are from the Boise area there or from Idaho. But obviously we have a tremendous amount of them and playing soccer and volleyball and football at all of our schools. So just encourage people to go check out the Big Sky on ESPN Plus and look forward to a great fall. Kevin, always great to be with you, my friend, and you be well.
You too, Mr. Commissioner Tom Wish. So we appreciate you. Have a great day, sir. Appreciate that, Tom Wish still joining us. Outstanding commissioner of the Big Sky Conference. Amazing. That conference continues to grow. And, of course, Idaho State, Idaho, many other schools. Sacramento State, it's interesting. They left the Big Sky, and they're going to this conference called the Mid-American Conference, which is primarily based in Ohio and Michigan. I don't know if Al Sayed is going to join them, but we'll see what happens there. So, again, great to get behind-the-scenes look at the upcoming college football, basketball season. Of course, the Big Sky comes to Boise every year. We appreciate them. Really, really great people. Phone numbers here. Now, before we give you the phone number, one more time here, and I know Bo's saying, Kevin, you can't hoard these tickets. We've got some tickets to the counting of the crows, the Albertsons Open, the golf. It's going to be a wonderful time. And you keep dying on this hill, Kevin Miller. And the hill is, instead of making it very easy to win the tickets, we're saying, I think this is easier than caller 10. I know this is easier than caller 10. Basically, you call in. We put you on the air. Well, I'm intimidated. Have you seen me? There's a reason why we don't have a video feed of this program. And you just say 580-KIDO. Now, here's the thing about this. You listen to the station. You get tired of me saying it. It's an easy thing to say, 580-KIDO. So call in. We'll put you on. We'll say, hey, man, or hey girl, or hey, young lady, or hey, older man, whatever. Just say 580-KIDO as many times as you can. And if we deem you worthy, which chances are we haven't really rejected anybody, you're going to see the counting of the crows. In other words, counting crows at the Albertsons Open. Here's what I want you to do if you're thinking about buying a car. 5-it. Now, last week, thank you, Bo, for letting me know it's Cinco-it. But it's 5-it or Cinco-it. That's what they're calling it at Team Mazda and the Pre-Owned Superstore, because right now you can buy a new Mazda or a better pre-owned vehicle with just $5 down and make no payments for 5 months. $5 down, 5 months before your first payment. That's the 5-it deal. And it could be perfect if you need a different vehicle right now, but don't have a bunch of cash sitting around for a down payment. Or you just rather keep that money in your pocket. And here's another way to save it, team. Look for the pink tags. Pinky, pinky, pinky. No, not piggy, piggy, piggy. Pinky, pinky, pinky. Look for the pink tags all over the Pre-Owned Superstore. Pink tags. Now, what does a pink tag mean at Team Mazda? That means the vehicle has been specially or specifically discounted to sell, and you'll find plenty of good, reliable pre-owned vehicles priced under $20,000. The price tag specials change all the time, so you've got to walk the lot and see what's available. And you'll have a nice person to walk along with you if you want some company. They don't leave anybody behind at Team Mazda. The pink tag specials change all the time, so you've got to walk the lot and see what's available. Plus, your trade is worth up to 130% of book value with a minimum $2,000 trade allowance, regardless of the condition. That's right, 130% of book value, a minimum of $2,000 trade allowance, regardless of the condition. So remember the number 5, $5 down, no payments for 5 months, 5-it or Cinco-it, if you will. That's only at Team Mazda and the Pre-Owned Superstore on the Boulevard. Get pre-approved today at goteamcredit.com. That email, that website, again, is goteamcredit.com. And again, once again, we want to thank Tom Wistersill for joining us, Commissioner of the Big Sky. We didn't ask him about this guy going after football. His name is Al Sayed. He's running for the Democrat, well, actually, to be the Democratic senator from Michigan, as they call it.
Football is very much associated with a particularly masculine and oftentimes toxically masculine culture.
And by the way, he's not done.
But they understand that the only way that they think they can win is to drag us into the mud, to believe the worst about each other.
Right. This guy doesn't like fireworks or the Second Amendment.
Allies are launching is already more bitter. All you got to do is look at the odds. You're already watching on TV, started today. They think that you want to use my whole name against me. Mike, listen, man, if you can't say the name, it's Abdurrahman, keep the name out your damn mouth.
He said that one fast. He said that very fast.
Few lessons. But they understand that the only way that they think they can win is to drag us into the mud.
Right. He doesn't want fireworks. He doesn't want the Second Amendment. He doesn't want football. Why is this guy running, and who in their right mind would elect him? Not Kevin Miller, not 580, KIDO. And, of course, before that, Sean Hannity. We'll talk more about the president, how to keep him rolling, keep him safe. Inflation cooled slightly to 3.4% in July as gas prices declined. That's the latest from the Wall Street Journal. Doing our very best not only to give you the latest news, but also your chance to comment on it. All right, let's go to the phones. And we go to Cheryl, who is a brave lady this morning, maybe a brave young lady. Cheryl, good morning. You're on 580 KIDO.
Good morning, 580 KIDO. 580 KIDO.
Hold on. Cheryl, hold on. Now, how many times can you say this in 10 seconds? I know you're in the zone, but what would you? How many times are you roll here? And you're a big fan of the Counting of the Crows.
Yeah, well, I've never got to see him, but I was wanting to see if to get the tickets for my son and his wife. So that's.
Well, aren't you a nice mom?
Calling in. Of course, if he can't go, I'll get my girlfriend to go, and we'll battle it to get there.
Sure. All right. Well, how many times can you say this in 10 seconds?
I don't know, but I'll give it a shot.
All right. So you ready to go? I'll give you the countdown.
Okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go, go, go.
580 KIDO, 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 580 KIDO. 580 KIDO, 580 KIDO, 580 KIDO, 580.
Okay, thank you. That was 40 seconds, and I gotta tell you, you're the best 580 KIDO we've ever had. You didn't fumble the call letters at all. You articulated those call letters correctly, and congratulations. Your son or you or someone is going to see the Counting Crows.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin, and I'm real happy for your weight loss. I'd love to see a picture of you, but I'm God bless you for doing that. I was always worried about you, but that's awesome. That's great, and I hope you live many, many, many years past. So,
well, thank you, Cheryl. I'll remember that when I'm on the
welcome.
elliptical today. I'll think of you today, but please hang on and congratulations. Great job. Boy, outstanding work there. Let's get you to work the right way. 580 KIDO traffic. Dave Burnett is standing by to get you to work the right way. And again, thank you to Cheryl. We'll get you rolling. And of course, remember Fox News right here at 580 KIDO. What a nice young lady. Okay, I guess we're going to go to, we'll get Cheryl's information and then we'll go to traffic. Before that, though, here we have Victor Davis Hanson talking about the presidential security detail. Now, you have the libs going crazy, saying that Donald Trump doesn't care about the media. We're not talking about the make-believe world of the media, the unicorns, the rainbows, and everything else. We're talking about real-life national security. Yesterday, our great friend Sean Hannity, catch him today at 1, had Victor Davis Hanson on. And you can hear Mr. Davis Hanson on with Lars, on with Sean. Some great content coming out of the West Coast. Let's take a listen.
Which plane would you really want to be on? I think the president makes a good point.
Yeah, he does. I think the reporters were hurt because they felt they were more essential to the security of the United States than the elected president. But Trump is a special case, Sean. He's the only president in U.S. history whom the security detail of the Secret Service on 4 occasions has exchanged shots with a would-be assassin, and that's never happened before. 4 times they had to pull out their weapons and shoot at somebody trying to kill Trump, or at least thought he was trying to kill Trump. So he's a special case, and maybe they should lower the bar on the rhetoric, because for the last 9 years we've heard all of these celebrities, from Snoop Dogg to Robert De Niro to Kathy Griffin to Madonna, saying that they dreamed of punching him in the face and blowing him up and lighting him on fire and shooting him, stabbing him, every type of morbid scenario, and nobody's objected to it. And they've lowered the bar so much on what's acceptable that brings a lot of crazy people out of the woodwork who think that if they were to do something stupid and try to shoot Trump, they would go down in the pantheon of heroes in the left-wing minds, and they would probably. So they're the wrong people to complain that we take extra precautions to protect the president. You know, in World War II, General Bernard Montgomery had a double. He had a double all the time, and no British soldier said, "Oh my gosh, you put me in danger because I thought that was you while you were safely somewhere else."
More on that in a minute. 580 KIDO. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Let's go to the phones, and here we have Dylan joining us at 580 KIDO. Hello, Dylan.
Well, hello, Kevin. Listening to you all the time, I hear your promos, your Kevin Miller promos, what you're working on, and one thing I appreciate about you is that you talk about mining and water and things that might be Idaho. I think I believe it's your first radio station, and there's been some recent developments in our area that I think people might be interested to know about in the Boise County area. He who speaks first loses. What many people might want to become aware of, because this would impact the Treasure Valley, potentially its drinking water, is there's been some recent developments in what is related to, or referred to as the Kumo mine. It just so happens that the largest, or estimated to be one of the largest deposits of molybdenum and copper is located right near Placerville, Idaho, in headwaters of the Boise River system and the Payette River system, which has been known for a long time. However, there's been some recent developments of this mine is taking some steps forward. In March 2025, it was approved for a 4-year discovery period. There's been other periods of discovery for it, and is clearly taking steps to move forward, because yesterday, residents of Boise County received a message from an analytical research company saying, "Do you support the Kumo mine? Yes or no?" which is obviously steps forward to prep people's minds for it. I'm not anti-mining by any means, but some interesting.
So, Dylan, what are you really saying? That the mine is going to destroy our water, possibly?
Well, here's one of my biggest concerns. Yes, if this was mined, this on the SEC filing for Idaho Copper Corporation, they are talking about 50 million tons per year for 30 years. There is certainly water required to accomplish these operations. If this particular deposit of molybdenum, which is, for people that don't know, you can't make good steel without molybdenum. It is an alloying metal that makes steel. What's really, I don't know whether you would call it interesting / concerning, is that 43% of this little thing is owned by a Hong Kong company, the International Energy and Mineral Resources. Some things that this is something that wouldn't transpire for probably 10 years. But as you look at the steps that are taken forward, you have the Department of Interior cleaning up the bureaucracy of the Forest Service with a specific motivation to essentially fast-track mining. That is one of their core objectives in this, is to get this Forest Service to work more efficiently. But we have right now, 43% of a Hong Kong company with the interest of one of the largest molybdenum deposits in the world that, if we're mined, would be the largest strip mine in the world. Now, when you talk about...
Now, why is no one else picking this up besides just Dylan from the Great Idaho Show? So here we have at 580 KIDO, Dylan telling us that the mines are coming in, Hong Kong's going to own Idaho, and our drinking water is going bad.
Well, I ran for commissioner in Boise County specifically because our counties are well underfunded in many ways and well underprepared to deal with federal national interests. Idaho is a resource state. Your commissioner role is tremendously important to be a communicator between the people and the federal and national interests. Mining is very important to our national security. I think people generally, especially very conservative Boise Countyans, support mining. However, when you take a look at the Valley County Stibnite mine and the things that are moving forward with antimony.
You know, you're getting lost in the weeds. You're getting lost in the weeds. Okay. What we care about is how this impacts us, and you're saying there's no oversight. What
it's
for the
not say there's oversight. There's county.
Well, what are you saying is what I'm trying to say.
Sure. If you live in Boise County and you appreciate it, because I know there's a lot of wonderful KIDO listeners there, you need to imagine 2 million tons of ore coming out of that hill. I think it's every month, something like that. It's to get 50 million tons out of the hills is trucking. Well, that trucking is going to come out Harris Creek Road for the Horseshoe Bend livers. It's going to come out Centerville Road for the Idaho City Placerville livers, and it's going to come out Highway 17 or Alder Creek Road for those that live in the Horseshoe Bend area. These are some of our most pristine recreational wildlife water areas. I mean, I'm going to sound like an environmentalist here, but here's the typical path of these mines. They don't give the county even 0.0001% of the total gained off of this mining scenario. They promote jobs. You know, they're going to bring, you know, there will be about 2,000 employees in the development. But after it's developed just like a data center, it boils down to about 300 employees. And who's responsible for these roads? And, you know, Boise County can't even afford to take care of people's homes burning down at this point.
Well,
and so
I don't know what to tell you. Boise County voted on their commissioners. So has this been approved or is this in the works?
It's in the works. We're on a 4-year discovery period, filed March 2025. So right now they're drilling. Boise County has sort of co-partnered to help work with roads. My concern is who's paying for that. That's another story. But after the discovery period, they're going to have a really long, hard challenge to move forward into mining. It takes years and years and years and years. But here's the thing. When it is the largest deposit in the world and your federal interest is like, we need this stuff and we're bringing manufacturing back to America. Well, for the Treasure Valley liver, it is your water source. It is.
All right, Dylan, thank you. Thank you for that update, Dylan. Thank you for that update, Dylan. And we love people like Dylan, and there's no one like Dylan that does the research. But if you can hear me during the time there, I was trying to give him a little, what does this mean to us? So it's a 4-year discovery period. Now, again, here's what it comes down to at 580 KIDO. And this is just you and me hanging out if we were at the Sunrise Cafe in Middleton or what have you. And I'd have to have egg beaters, and I'd probably go later just for intermittent fasting. But regardless of that, and we wrote an article about this before where, you know, the needs of agriculture that have run the state, continue to run the state, or the needs of the new money, technology coming in. Now, the Los Angeles Lakers were just sold for $12 billion. No, I'm not talking about the people that bought the Lakers 6 months ago for $10 billion. $12 flippin' billion. I don't know if that was tech money or whatever, but the advent of technology coming in through data centers and through, AI and everything else is going to influence state politics. And we have the governor who has openly solicited businesses, unlike Seattle, Washington, and California, to come into the state. Now, this is the balance. I know there are a lot of people who was talking to me about this the other day. Oh, it was my neighbor Candace. And, Kevin, I love camping and all this, and I'm going, well, good for you. And my brother, he and his family want to come out and see the Tetons. And don't you want to go to? No, I want to watch the shows like the president. That's what I want to do. I want to watch the shows like the president. But as Dylan outlined, and let me bring it home for you before we get to Eric and Cuna, you've got money interest, and then you've got people that love the state. And we're talking about not turning this state, with all due respect to the Mountaineers, into West Virginia. And Dylan's point is there's no infrastructure, there's no this, and if you're going to mine this thing, it's going to destroy the environment. And by the way, if it's a 4-year study, that's 2029, I don't think President AOC is going to allow that to happen. It's going to be a lot of tree hugging if the libs get in. We go to Eric in Cuna at 580 KIDO. Eric, good morning. The wild man returns.
Good morning. Yeah, I mean, thanks, Dylan, for letting us know that. I mean, why didn't we know this? Why didn't we hear about it? Well, the oversight is probably keeping it a secret. And, we know from, years past, over the last 10 years, we know Idaho has been in league with China with a lot of things. And I don't think China should be here doing business with mines. I mean, why do they come here? Why are we allowing China? They got their own country to mine, and farm. Chinese buying farmland. I mean, that's a whole nother thing. Kind of off the subject what I was going to talk about, but what I was going to talk about, a couple of things. That El Said guy who's just saying he doesn't like football. Well, Michigan's a big football state. All those college towns, that ain't going to fly over. And if the people of Michigan, the real American people of Michigan, come out in droves and vote, he's probably not going to win, especially saying that. But and another thing, these stupid celebrities, I don't know. I think we're all getting tired of these ultra-liberal, rich celebrities in their glass houses. And I'm talking about actors and musicians. It's pretty sad musicians, but, they're nobody really cares what they say anymore. And look what Hollywood has brought us for the last 10 or 20 years. Just endless regurgitated superhero movies and remakes of good movies. I mean, Hollywood is garbage now, really. I mean, the majority of Hollywood movies and everything else, it's a lot of trash, a lot of raunchy garbage. And then they come out and, and they start talking about politics. And, nobody cares anymore what celebrities think. I mean, some people do, obviously, but a lot of people are just really tired of these stupid celebrities. I mean, what do they do for a living? They fake a character for a living. Oh, wow, you really make the world go round. Good for you. I mean, somebody that cleans a toilet does more for society than these actors. So, maybe they should just shut up, humble down, be grateful, and not talk about politics because, that puts them out of business. I mean, they're pretty stupid on top of that. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. And I just hope that, people start waking up, because that guy in Michigan, I mean, the only reason he's where he is right now is because of Obama. I mean, Obama opened up the floodgates for, these Muslim communities, and they're rising to power because of Obama. And, I'm not against Muslims. I mean, if there's a Muslim that lives in the United States and they believe in American law and they love America, fine, no problem. But if they follow the book by letter that they follow, their book says to take over. Their book says, do anything you can to infiltrate, take over, outbreed, just completely take over. And you know, what's allowed this is
Eric, I appreciate that. I got to run. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Radio, out to our great friend Jared Halpern joining us from Fox News Radio from the White House. Jared, great to have you with us.
Good morning.
So another day, more details concerning the Air Force One situation. You're on the ground there. What's the fallout, sir?
Well, I mean, a lot of questions, right? This was certainly an extraordinary operation. When you just consider the secrecy surrounding it, it speaks to certainly how significant this threat was to President Trump, or at least was perceived to be. The Secret Service going to these lengths and boarding the big plane, using a catering truck to be ferried secretly to another plane. The president was asked a little bit about it last night, told reporters that he didn't know a lot about it, that this was something the Secret Service told him to do, and he did what the Secret Service did. And, you know, I think that again, speaks to a level of concern, especially when the president is traveling abroad. He was in Turkey, shares a border with Iran. This was at a heightened state in the war. We know from a lot of public reporting that Iran has long sought to assassinate President Trump, going back to his order in his first term to kill Soleimani. So, again, I don't think it's new information or surprising information that there would be a threat like that. I think what is certainly jaw-dropping for a lot of us is how serious this threat was and the lengths that the Secret Service and the military took to mitigate it as much as they could. There is certainly other conversations happening about the disclosure or lack thereof. The White House, even after the fact, never acknowledged that this happened, did not reveal, you know, in the next day or after the president was back in the U.S. that they did this, that he was flown on a different aircraft without staff, without a press corps. And we find out about it, obviously, through this reporting in the Washington Post. And I note that only because that is a little bit of a break. There have always been secret flights that presidents have taken. They go into combat zones. Certainly, you think about 9/11. In those instances, there was not immediate reporting on the president's whereabouts, but there was always kind of day after statements that the White House would put out, kind of saying, here's what happened, here's where the president was, here's when he left. That did not happen in this case.
Yeah, and, you know, you have to wonder about the threat level. I mean, you deal with the Secret Service every day. They don't play, and to make that call.
And, you know, the Secret Service also has a lot of things at their disposal. Sometimes, you know, you come into the White House and you can see an increased security posture. Sometimes you don't see the increased security posture. And in this case, at least based on the videos that we now can kind of look back on, it's clear that they did not have a kind of forward-facing or public-facing security posture, that this was done by design to be clandestine, that they did not want to kind of tip off perhaps that they knew that there was a threat and were responding to it. And so the use of this catering truck and the secondary airplane, having the president board the main plane before that happened, again, speaks to me about the level of secrecy that certainly the Secret Service believed needed to occur here to keep the president safe.
Well, and then again, you know, what do you and what don't you disclose when it comes to the presidential security?
Yeah,
that's the debate that continues.
That's always a balance, right? I mean, that's always a balance. What, you know, the American people have a right to know up to what point. And that's a balance that administrations have to face. It is a balance that journalists have to face. And so, again, I think that's where a lot of this conversation, at least here in the press room, kind of is was there a way to maybe disclose things in a different manner, to come out and say we did this extraordinary operation? At the same time, is there a concern that if you do that, they can't use that operation again? This is, you know, does that speak to this being an ongoing threat? A lot of those questions, I think, remain.
Jared, what should we be looking out for today?
So the president doesn't have much on his public schedule today, so we're not necessarily going to see him, although that could change. I am kind of waiting to get the president's read on last night's primary elections. Obviously, his preferred Republican and Darlene Graham advancing to a runoff later this month. The sister, of course, of the late Senator Lindsey Graham to serve a full term in the Senate. And, maybe a little bit of what we learned last night in the upper Midwest. A Democratic Socialist candidate, Francesca Hong, losing narrowly to a more moderate centrist Democrat in a really important state like Wisconsin. So, each of these elections, I think, tell us a little bit more about where voters are in these key battleground states. And President Trump certainly is always keeping a mindful eye on all of these elections and the candidates that are emerging from these primaries.
Jared Halpern, we always appreciate you. That South Carolina race is going to be really interesting to watch.
Could be interesting to watch. One, because the congressman, Ralph Norman, is somebody that is well known, so that will be an interesting runoff to watch. And then the general election, which I don't think is on a lot of people's radar, given how red South Carolina is. But keep in mind, this primary for the Democrats was settled months ago. And so you have a candidate who has been able to spend that money, get on TV, run those campaigns, get better name recognition, run that message, identify herself. And whoever emerges from this runoff is going to be playing a little bit of catch up. And you don't know kind of just in the environment that we're in if that becomes a state to watch. I don't think I'm ready yet to put it in that column, but you're right. I think South Carolina is an intriguing contest.
Jared Halpern, we can tell your love for the trail in that last description there. There's nothing like the trail.
I love it.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
More coming up next. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO.
A 2-foot-long, highly venomous cottonmouth snake somehow slithered its way into an Arkansas high school football player's headpiece. You can see it here hiding behind the inner padding. But guys, the player practiced for an hour with it stuck up there before he started noticing the horrifying feeling around his head. This is a closer look. Apparently, one of the coaches spotted it when he brought in his helmet for an inspection during that practice. Eventually, school staff secured it in a tote bag until Animal Services came to take it away. Griff has been chomping at the bit all morning to talk about
It's such a crazy story. It gives snakes on a plane a whole new meaning. And in Arizona, everybody's afraid of rattlesnakes, right?
We shake everything.
This is in Little Rock. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. The cottonmouth is the most dangerous snake. I just can't believe he played for an hour. Finally, he's like, hey, coach, something's wrong with my helmet. And they look in there, and there's a 2-foot cottonmouth. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you think you have issues. Good morning, Kevin Miller with you. Glad you're on the right path at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Imagine that as football season continues, practices continue, and you talk about blessings, a 2-foot venomous cottonmouth inside the person's helmet. By the way, how in the world could that snake just coil itself up in there and then maybe it was lulled to sleep by the constant pounding? I mean, football practice is inherently physical again and again and again. So you think you've had a rough day. You think you've had challenges. Just think about that. And thank goodness, and thank goodness gracious that kid is okay. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We are talking about a few things. The controversy over President Trump's decision to save his own life instead of taking one for the team. Now people are saying, getting out of Air Force One and, doing the right thing, making sure that, our leader wasn't killed. Well, what about the media? Aren't they important? Well, in the entire free world, there is only one Highlander reference. There's only one president of the United States, and that is President Trump. And I know there are a lot of people like our friend Jim and Star that are JD fans. I keep wanting to say J.D. Hayworth, but it's J.D. Vance. And, you know, J.D. could come in. No, President Trump is the guy. President Trump is the person. And it all begins and ends with him. And yet here we have the liberal loons. Remember, as Victor Davis Hanson said at 580 KIDO, 4 times the Secret Service has exchanged gunfire protecting this man's life. But still, we have the loons, the Looney Tunes, if you will, mad that the president didn't tell the media, hey, everybody, hey, you guys, electric company reference, that we're going to get everybody off the plane because the bad guys might blow it up.
But he left his Secretary of State and Treasury Secretary behind.
It was really as per the military, and I just have to do what they say. They go for safety, and I have to do what they say.
Why was it too dangerous for you to fly on Air Force One, but
well,
not
I don't know.
I
think actually the plane that I flew on was at greater risk. I think it was at greater risk because that would be the plane I think that they would be more likely to go for.
The plane that no one knew he was on. Because here's the thing. This ruse at this point, people can identify on video. The Secret Service hid the president inside a catering truck.
It was a bait and switch. He put people in harm's way to save himself. That's who Donald Trump is.
Okay, group chat is back. We have 2 takes here. One person, J.B. Pritzker, who has been a good sort of foil for Trump, willing to speak publicly on the national stage, saying, you know, you leave behind the Treasury Secretary and the Secretary of State and more than 100 people, frankly, like staffers as well as press, and maybe that's saying something about you. And Trump saying, look, I got to do what the security requires. What do you make of how Pritzker framed this?
I mean, I think it doesn't. The problem here, I think, for Trump is that it doesn't pass the ridiculous test, right? Obviously, the president's safety is of utmost priority, right? And it's important that the Secret Service keep them safe. That being said, if they propose a plan to the president that seems ridiculous, a president can always say, I'm not doing that, figure something else out. And I think what we saw here is sort of Trump being the most elemental Trump he could be, which is that he doesn't really care about anyone else. I think he figured that the optics would never be exposed and this would remain a secret. But I think the image of him sort of crouching on a catering truck, you know, at the expense of the safety of everyone else is not a good one. And I think Pritzker has a point.
People were trying to ask questions of Marco Rubio about this, the Secretary of State and many other jobs. Here he is.
Mr. Secretary, did you put Americans at risk by having them fly in Air Force?
There we have it, CNN. So I love how they're trying to portray this, that the president was cowering. No, the president did the right thing. You know, one thing that you learn in the military, it's called the Uniform Code of Military Justice. The Uniform Code of Military Justice. And when you're in the military, I'm not saying this is the same for the president, but it's a correct analogy, if you will. And the analogy is that you become, how should I put this? In the military, you're government property. You could say that the president is our national treasure, our national resource. We're not going to allow people to kill our president. And then we have the media going, well, what about us? Well, then, if you don't want to have your life in jeopardy, don't get on Air Force One. Don't cover this guy. You have a free choice, as we do. Let's go to Lee Joe, who joins us now at 580 KIDO with Kevin Miller. Hello, Lee Joe.
Good morning, sir. You bringing up the exact point. The leftists have the religion of the self. That's what LGBTQ is. These people believe that they are their own gods. They're the most important thing on that plane. When the president is on the plane, the press corps is much, much more important. We have a security problem still involving this incident, okay? This has been or has become revealed tactics and methods for security of the President of the United States, revealed by a member of the press who was told this happened by someone in the president's inner circle or staff or some leftover liberal in the Secret Service or something like that. There's a leaker that told someone that this happened because the press is ignorant. They wouldn't have, obviously, they didn't know the president got on and off. And it could have stayed that way had not someone just blathered to the Times that this had happened. And so, yep, this is typical liberal press, inability to understand the importance of keeping the president safe. And it's also a security leak on top of it all, which needs to be investigated. And, I don't know if we'll be able to get the source from the reporter that reported it from whichever newspaper outlet it was, but there's a problem. Now everybody knows that if there's another plane somewhere close to Air Force One, it could potentially have the president on it. So they will plan. And this is a massive, massive security breach that you basically can't understate how bad it is. And let's talk about natural resources real quick. Mines and water and all these things that we have in the United States and who owns them. And Dylan just brought up we've got 43% ownership by a Hong Kong company, which Hong Kong is now owned by China. Our local oil or our local water company, Veolia, is owned by a French conglomerate and was previously owned by Suez, which was the majority stakeholder was an Arab prince, and I don't know who the majority stakeholder is in the French conglomerate, but all these foreign companies have Idaho water rights, and I think it's high time. And even when I worked at the mine down there in Delamar, in Silver City, the company that owned that was Kinross, a Canadian company. United States minerals and natural resources need to be owned by United States companies, and that needs to be a period, full stop. Giving our wealth to other countries to use the resources, I'm over it. I'm done with it. If we're going to make America great again, that's one thing you've got to do. Like the price of water in Boise is exorbitant. I live in a little water district called Capital Water. It's $35 a month for all the water I can use. Anybody in Veolia's circle is $235 a month for water. And the Idaho Public Utilities Commission lets them get away with it. The other cities, which aren't Veolia owned, follow the Veolia price as it goes up. And I get good quality water. My water mains get replaced and fixed when they need. It's ridiculous, the exploitation of Idaho by foreign companies who now own water rights in Idaho, who own mineral rights in Idaho. It needs to stay here. And call me anti-capitalist or something, because I don't want to be an internationalist. We need to be able to control our own resources. It's like with Mexico. Why do we have a Mexican immigration problem? It's because all the oil that they have, which is tremendous amounts, is owned by their government. And their government can't figure out how to use it. And it's a socialist country. It's a failed socialist state. And yet they have the ability, if they allowed capitalism to happen, to provide for themselves. And is that what we want to do here? Have a bunch of socialist countries own our natural resources? The French are no model of capitalism. Anyways, there's my rant.
I appreciate you, Kevin.
Lee Joe, God bless. Thank you for the call. Kevin Miller on your home for Fox News, 580 KIDO. Again, we're talking about the president's security, the safety of the commander-in-chief. And yet, here we have the media upset that, the Iranians didn't get another shot at him. As I said earlier, I got to think that the guy is just, I think he's just tired. And who could blame him, really? He started this thing called the Patriot Games. And CNN this morning is saying they don't like the Patriot Games. You might have heard the ads for them on the radio. And really, it's about physical fitness. It really is. I really look forward to the day when we can shatter the media-perpetuated racial ceiling that we have. The racial glass ceiling, if you will.
So after the break on this morning, we're going to talk about one more thing, Trump's Patriot Games. Have you heard of this? Basically, we want to know whether this is a representation of America, this youth sports event, or maybe a kind of MAGA Olympics. We'll have more. And then
MAGA Olympics. Again, I suppose there's an audience for this, and nobody likes it when a new boss comes in because the rules have changed. The games have changed. Everything has changed. And when a new boss comes in, what was standard could be obsolete. And those people fear the craziness that they have perpetrated could in fact be coming to an end because CNN will be sold to the Ellisons and they will be cleaning house. As they should. I mean, could you imagine any politician in their right mind coming out against Thanksgiving, coming out against the 4th of July, coming out against football? I mean, it's not Connecticut, it's Michigan. And people love football in Michigan. Just like they love people, people, they love football in Idaho, football people, if you will. It's what happens when I get caught trying to do two things at once. But the idea that, it's just normal. No, it isn't. These people are anarchists. They're not politicians. They're not people that we can play we can agree to disagree with. No, not at all. They are truly anarchists. And that's what they hope to do to destroy the economy. By the way, this portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Peak Health Idaho. Call them now, 683-7325, 683-7325. I got to tell you, I was very suspicious because, 5-10 years ago, you could put this thing on your arm and you could detect your blood sugar. And as someone that was diabetic, pre-diabetic, I was like, I don't want anybody to know this stuff. And, maybe you're one of these people like Kevin Miller that you think to yourself, I'd rather not know. Well, if you'd rather know and take preventative measures, now you can't go back to your 20s, but you can improve where you are today, whether you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s. And that's why we're talking about Peak Health Idaho with Dr. Eric Lyle. They've got memberships. This is a physician-led, board-certified physician-led study in longevity medicine. We're talking about making sure that your visceral fat isn't too much. I have a lot of visceral fat. I had, some could say, a good run when it comes to food. I've lost over 130 pounds. But it's not just about weight loss. It's about trying to work out the right way. Sean, our gentleman who handles the training, the exercise physiologist, said, Kevin, you've got outstanding muscle for your age, but you really need to work on the cardiovascular. I get that. So yesterday I was doing some circuit training to keep the heart rate going, and it was very different. And it's very good for your heart. I didn't know these things until, again, I went to Peak Personalized Healthcare, and you can as well at 683-7325, whether it's a simple DEXA scan, which takes a look at your body fat inside and out, comprehensive biomarkers, IV therapy, all the stuff that you have read about with Dr. Peter Attia. They do that there. And by the way, I'm really enjoying having this monitor on me because it's monitoring my blood sugar. And don't tell anybody, but there's a place in Star called Sally's Snow Cone. And there's a member of our family that is addicted to snow cones. And it's not me, but I decided I've been a cherry snow cone guy, small, not large. And I had a snow cone, a grape snow cone. And then I looked at my blood sugar thing, and the normal is, I think for me, between 70 and 140. It spiked, and I'm going, aha. And obviously, you know, when you eat the stuff with high sugar, it's going to, well, disrupt where you are. And by the way, you hear the new thing going on that you should walk after you eat just to kind of help you with the glucose stuff. I did that yesterday, and yeah, my glucose went down. I learned all that from Peak Personalized Health. Check them out today, 683-7325. Their website, peakhealthidaho.com. Our friend Dr. Eric Lyle, Beverly and Sean and Roxy and the gang is all there. Let's go to the phones, and yes, there is video. We have it of Tea Party Bob dressed as a banana working out with me at Axiom in Meridian. Good morning. You're at 580 KIDO. It takes a very brave man to dress like a banana lifting weights.
Well, that's when I was 180 pounds and kind of looked like a banana. Well, let me get to a few things this morning. I am way irritated at some of the things that are said here. I just have a few words for the news organizations who are complaining about being on a different plane than President Trump because of a credible threat. First of all, it wasn't President Trump who decided to take a different plane. It was the Secret Service that made that decision. Most of these people are the same ones who beat him up and criticize him just about every day on everything he does in the media, day in and day out, and many of them are not the real press looking for the truth. They are the fake news, leftist propaganda machine. These are the same people who, in my opinion, have been responsible for promoting people like Robert De Niro and others who wish Trump was dead. I'm sick and tired of these crybabies who are not good journalists, who think they are relevant to the day-to-day news when their reporting is as irrelevant as they are. These are the same reporters who said the Butler Penn assassination attempt was a staged event. This president has had more attempts on his life than any other in our history. And these wannabe reporters want to make the public think that their lives are more important than the president of the United States. When you sign on to be a White House reporter, you accept the risks attached to the job, nothing different than the military. And if you don't want to put your life in danger, then you shouldn't be covering the White House and have the privilege of access to the president on his plane. So either stop complaining or get out of the presidential press corps and the privileges attached to it. And just a few words about this new molybdenum mine that Dylan brought up. All I will say is Idaho, Idaho has one of the largest rare earth mineral deposits in the country. And to be sure, we will see more of these types of projects being proposed in the future. If done properly, they will be very beneficial to our state and to the country. But Idahoans need to have some say in how and where our land is to be used for projects that are going to extract these rare earth minerals. The U.S. government still controls 62% of our land. And I have said many times, Idahoans need to have not only a say in the projects that are being done in our state, but they also need to make sure that Idaho's taxpayers get royalties from any minerals that are extracted from our state. The government may have seized control of our land, but that doesn't mean they can come in and rape and pillage, take the assets out of the ground that rightfully belong to Idahoans. We have all seen the terrible job the U.S. Forest Service has done in managing our forest over the past 30, 40 years as forest fires rage all over our state. And we don't want a repeat of that with rare earth mining. One last thing, or should I say one more thing for Jim, who voted for Trump 3 times. Trump was not responsible for creating the vaccine for COVID. That was the job he gave to the drug companies. And what he did is exude the confidence in the vaccine that was given to him by the drug companies and good old Dr. Fauci. Most of the lies about COVID and the vaccine took place under the Biden administration. When all is said and done, it will be Biden and Fauci who will be blamed for the problems with this vaccine. So all I will say to Jim is, I voted for Trump 3 times. Stop reading all the propaganda on social media, as most of it is just pure, unadulterated garbage. I haven't got much else to say, but thank you very much.
I don't know. But to take issue with you, you go back to the mining and everything. We've got an email here from Edith basically saying, we complain. Let's see, where's this thing? Listening to Dylan, if we want to bring industry back to American regulations are followed, i.e. water supply, it seems like the mine up by Placerville would be a great place for the new state for the government, and for it seems like the water will be used, cleaned, and then put back in the river. Just thinking out loud, we can't keep shooting down businesses and then complain that things are made out of country. That's to Dylan, but to his point and to your point, if somebody wants to build a mine, I don't think that anybody can stop them in Idaho. I don't think that's how it works here. I think things are the way they are, and I think there are a lot of questions that get swept under the rug, and bring it on. Now, maybe the environmental wackos, the tree huggers, can stop it. I don't know, but I don't think that anybody's going to get a say here, buddy.
Kevin, they're going to come in here regardless, okay? We have some of the best rare earth minerals in the country. And the only thing I'm saying is if you're going to do it properly, and we need to get money, royalties from these mining operations to be put back into our state coffers. Maybe one of these days that might even help us lower our taxes.
Well, you can dream all you want.
No, I'm not dreaming. There will be something happening here if we ever get an administration that cares about the people and not the corporations.
Well, not only the corporations, but I think this is a problem when you have an impotent leftist party here. You have, the most prominent Democrat, and that's whether it was Dave Beater or Lauren McLean as the Boise mayor, and she's decided to be a social media influencer. Now, so there is no really environmental, wacky liberal opposition. You're going to have people that are sportsmen, that love the outdoors. They're going to be conservative. I don't know if that's enough. You need really, like the Sierra Club or somebody to come in, and really to use the verbal jujitsu on you in my own simpleton way. It's tough to say we're going to do it the right way when we're the most unregulated state in America. Now, that's a quote from your friend, Governor Little. So without regulation, and regulations can be bad, but they can also be very good, where is the safety concern?
Well, let me kind of put it to you in a different way. We have many, many assets here in Idaho. And again, rare earth minerals are one of them. And the conservationists are going to do some things that are helpful and some things that are not. If you remember the White Cloud issue, it was our good friend, guess who, Simpson, who was the one who made sure that one of the largest molybdenum deposits in the world could never be touched by making it a property that is in conservation. Or did you forget that?
I remember that, and I remember we actually cost somebody a seat with Obama because we were the ones that outed Obama for being lobbied by Boise liberals to do something along that nature. I can't remember what it was, to let the state take it or something of that nature. But I remember Obama was reminded of our influence back in that day. But, who's to stop the Chinese or the Hong Kongians or whoever from coming in? I don't know if Mike Simpson will do that. I don't know if Russ Fulcher will do that. I don't know if anybody will do that. I'll just say, well, we need it. Here we go. The only people that I could see stopping it is President AOC, the lib.
Yeah, right. As long as the government controls 62% of this land, you're not going to see China in here. You're not going to see any other real foreign countries that are enemies of us that are going to be doing anything. It's the government who's controlling and has controlled this for years, for decades. That's not going to change. I just want to make sure the people of Idaho get compensated. And that's going to be up to whoever's in office running this state to make sure that happens. Let's see how hard they actually fight for the people, and if they fight as hard for the people as they do for the corporations that pay for their elections.
You can catch his work at the Gem State Patriot, gemstatepatriot.com. Tea Party Bob, thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Have a great day.
Let's go to Ron Grant, who joins us now at 580 KIDO.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
And Ron Grant, he loves to serve people. He's here to talk about keeping your money safe. Ron, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, young man. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Not bad. Let's talk about, oil prices are up, oil prices are down, people on fixed incomes. People would like to be on a fixed income. They want to keep their money safe, and that is where you come in, sir.
Yes, sir. This is my 30th year helping people keep that money 100% safe and making sure that they can't lose their principal, can't lose any gains that they've already earned. Most importantly, we want to provide them with their lifetime income that they can't outlive. And if they're married, when one spouse passes, the other spouse gets that income for their life. And then when they've passed, whatever's left goes to the beneficiaries. People worked hard, Kevin, 30, maybe 40 years putting money away in a retirement plan. And maybe it's not how much they're putting away, but maybe where they're putting it might be the problem. Traditional retirement plans don't provide that income source in most cases. And in most cases, they're in the risk and the fees of the Wall Street casino. So my clients and I, we don't like that. We like 100% safety. We like an insurance product where you can't lose the principal or the gains. And I think that's important, especially for the money you worked hard for.
All right, Ron Grant, how can people get a hold of you? And obviously, they're going to want to hear what you have to say, but you want to listen to them.
Always. You have to ask questions. You have to listen. Make sure that you're helping them get the right product for what they're looking for. I put together a great educational website that they can go on at their leisure, 24/7. Articles to read, videos to take a look at. You can even download the free book, 10 Things to Know About Retirement Income. But, let's have a conversation right here in the Treasure Valley about how you can have a guaranteed income that you can't outlive. Zero stock market risk. And legacy protection for your family. That's the most important thing because that's your money. 208-660-1372.
Ron, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you, buddy. Have a good day.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
And we go to the watchdog of Eagle, Idaho, Mark. Mark, good morning. You're on 580 KIDO.
Good morning, sir. I did not have a chance to hear Dylan and what he talked about. I got a call on another line I had, the emergency I had to take. But, I had a feeling when I heard something about mines and the Chinese, that story broke a long time ago. That came out
Dylan.
When I used to get – I'm sorry?
No, I was going to say old news Dylan, but please keep going, Mark.
Well – so that story came out in the Idaho Statesman a number of years ago. It had to have been maybe as long as 10 years ago. And that was back when I was getting that old libtard rag sheet called the Idaho Statesman and then dumped it because of all the left-wing propaganda that they extrapolate from other left-wing sources across the country here. But, it stated what that is up there in the Placerville, Centerville. I love the history of Idaho. I love the old mining history, HistoryNet, and myself. And, I remember taking my kids way back then up there in that region, and it's called Placerville, Kevin, not Placerville. There's a Placerville down there in California in the old 49er highway there in the old gold country there east of Sacramento. So Placerville was a common name for mining towns throughout the Pacific Northwest and the Intermountain Northwest. So, but yeah, there was a trail that you could take off when you exited out of Placerville there, and it was an off-road. And when you went off, you go back in there, there's a bunch of old mines, some of them that are in the ground that you see going down that fill with water. It was kind of wide open, and it was like, wow, what a lot of neat history to see here. But yeah, it does make me wonder, why are we taking our own natural resources and allowing countries to come in, such as Veolia? And I wish we had Capital City Water, because I remember we had Eagle Water, at Lee Joe, and boy, we were paying about 1/8 or maybe 1/10 of what we're paying now in our water bills. It's awful, and I mean awful. So this is what happens with these big corporations that come in that buy other companies out. And I remember when Robert DeShaza, who owned the Eagle Water Company, they did a story on him, and he had quoted saying that one day, water will become more precious than a barrel of oil, and he was dead on right. And look at our drought and what we're facing here today. And what's very odd is look at the drought that's going on in Puerto Rico. Look at the drought that's going on there. They get the Danube River in Germany and through that whole area that travels to a number of countries over there in Europe, where some of the nuclear power plants have had to close or shut down partially or fully because of the water. Something very odd is going on. It's not all man-made. It's called what happens with the natural cycle of Earth. And I'll get into that another day if we get into the history and of what's going on with the so-called global warming bit. But yeah, why are we selling our resources out to other countries? I mean, we should, if they're rare earth minerals, and this was what was stated way back in the Statesman's article, that was rare earth minerals, and the Chinese, and I'm thinking to myself back then, why are the Chinese buying this? How come we have mining companies? Why are we not developing our own mines and mining our own stuff here? There's no logic in it. It's just like the data centers, Kevin. I mean, didn't you say, and if I remember, you said that the mayor and the city council out there in Kuna had no idea that Meta Facebook was going to go in there and build this great big data center out there?
I think the mayor had an idea. I don't think that the city council did. I know state officials didn't as well. I believe that. I'll say from one of the multiple sources I got on that story, I believe the mayor did know about it.
Okay, that's what I thought I remember you saying on KIDO. But my point is this. How come? I mean, this reminds me of what just happened down there in McKinney, Texas. Look at go look up Gateway Pundit. Go to the bottom. Scroll through the second or third page. You'll see the story of what happened in McKinney, Texas, where the city council and the mayor voted to have a mosque and a Muslim center put in down there in McKinney, Texas, against the outcry of the people. What? Who is behind the scenes that are doing this? I mean, we can say the deep state. Is it the shadow government that wants these data centers? I mean, who's buying out our resources? This is all this globalism crap, and look what it's doing to our sovereignty of our nation and our resources as a result. I know you're getting
Mark,
your
great
heart
call.
breaking.
Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. The Sean, the Lars, Glenn, George, the gang is all here. And by the way, if you're running as an American, embrace Thanksgiving. Embrace the 4th of July and embrace football, right? We've embraced you. We love you. Kevin Miller loves you. God bless. Keep the faith. Thank you, Peak Health Idaho, for sponsoring this portion of the program.
This episode sponsored by Lettuce Financial. Self-employed? Congrats. You fired your boss and hired 5 new ones. Taxes, bookkeeping, payroll, healthcare, and retirement. That's why I use Lettuce Financial. Leave a W-2 job, and suddenly every back-office task is your job. Lettuce Financial helps solo business owners organize spending, savings, and taxes in one place, so your money finally makes sense. If you're a freelancer, creator, or consultant, Lettuce Financial helps you save time, cut stress, and get back to the work you actually want to do. Visit Lettuce, LETTUCE.co now to find out how much time and tax money Lettuce Financial could help you save. Less back office, more business.